Spotty's leaving PS Plus.
SEGA kills 2 birds with 775 million stones.
Hello and welcome to Triangle Squared, a PlayStation podcast. I'm your host, Brett Beck, and alongside me, as is always, is one Mr. Christopher Figs.
Hey.
You like how I used your proper full name on the beginning and then like your slang last name on the end? That was I just basically did your name as a mullet. You were business in the front and party in the back.
Yeah, exactly. Same idea.
Every now and then you got to do that, you know. You got to have a little bit of a mullet in your life, whether it's your hair or not. You know, there's always a time where you have to choose the mullet route. Mullet's a lifestyle; it doesn't have to be a hairstyle. You know, it can also be that.
It's true.
But Chris, this is not a podcast.
Depends
about
how you
mullets.
spend your days. Could be.
This is a podcast that can sometimes be business up front and then party right there at the crazy end. But this is a PlayStation podcast. So if you're new to the show, first and foremost, welcome. We hope you enjoy the episode. Today, we're going to be talking about some stuff that's happened the past week. We're still in a relatively slow news period, but it's starting to get a little more spicy. So we've got Media Molecule closing down, or no, I'm kidding, not closing down. We have one person leaving Media Molecule. I blew that one up for a second. My bad, guys. Spider-Man is leaving PS Plus, which is prompting some questions from some users. And we've got SEGA choosing to get in on some of that M&A action by throwing around some aggressively medium bucks. But that's okay. We'll get into all that here in a bit. But first and foremost, we always start the show off in a time-honored tradition of checking in on what we've been playing so that we can hopefully show each other some new games occasionally, as Chris does with things like Dredge, going so far as to install it on my console. Whether purposefully or an accident, whether he wants to admit it, I think it was on purpose. And of course, hopefully help you guys to discover some new or old games to dig into and have a good time with. So, Chris, as always, I shall defer to you to start this off. What has your gaming week been up with? What have you been playing?
Well, I've been spending a lot of time getting through Resident Evil 4. I'm doing a 100% run on assisted mode. My big tip is go S-Rank Mercenaries. Gives you a very good gun, which you can end up with unlimited ammo. So that's actually been a huge problem for me. Do you have this issue where you play shooters and you hit square to reload after like every combat encounter?
Constantly. But the saving grace I have is I don't seem to have that problem in third person. I exclusively have that problem in first person games because it's like I've taught myself through years of playing different multiplayer games online that like if you shoot, you immediately refill so that you don't get caught, slacking.
Yeah, exactly. So I have that habit, and when you have this unlimited gun, and I'm wearing the pinstripe suit. I don't know if this changes depending on what you're wearing, but it has unlimited ammo. So every time I hit square, it does this animation of Leon like spinning the gun, flipping it over his back, catching it, and then like tipping his fedora. And it's a great animation, but you can't skip it. So I've hit X and had this animation happen in like the middle of combat. So I'm doing this whole flippy dippy anime shit. And some Granados comes and hits me in the back, and it ruins my time. But
so you don't have iframes during all that, huh?
No, you definitely don't. Which actually, on assisted mode, the fastest way to continue is to get hit in the head, and then continue on because it stops that animation. But
that's animation skips. I mean, that's actually a pretty good idea. Yeah.
No, it works. But like that gun's like a one-shot kill, and I have it upgraded so that I have unlimited ammo with it. So I'm just sprinting around, shooting down treasures, sprinting through the game. It's been a lot of fun. I really enjoy Resident Evil 4 Remake.
So since I've never played any of those games that way, right? I've never been one to like, I'm going to replay the game with time trials or anything like that.
Yeah.
How do you even go about getting an S rank on those? Like, I've never really thought about it or worried about it. So is it based on accuracy, based on time through the level?
It's
is
time
it a bunch of different
saves.
elements?
It's time saves and death. and I'm not sure if damage counts, but because I'm not trying to S rank yet, so I haven't looked into the requirements, but I do know like to S rank professional, you can't save more than like 15 times.
Across the whole game?
Right, across the whole game. But you don't need to. Once you know the game, like I'm halfway through in 3.5 hours while searching out every collectible. And my first playthrough was like 16, 17 hours. So once you beat the game once, you know exactly what to do. Just sprint through, one shot all the enemies, especially with this gun, and just keep moving. Keep it pushing, Chief. But yeah,
so
still highly recommend it.
I guess I didn't even think about that. Does it actually just rank you at the end of the game? And I guess there's not like chapter points for it to rank you by, is there?
Well, there are chapter endpoints, but it just gives you the results. Like it tells you, oh, you shot a Castellian in this level. You did it in this many times. You got hit this many times. This was your accuracy.
See,
this is how fast you did it.
I didn't know if they'd keep that or not in the modern version. I remember that in the original version, but you know, that's one of those things that since I don't really think about that, like I don't feel like I remember that being a thing in Resident Evil 7. So I guess they've kept that as a holdover from the previous game, or maybe it's just that even though it was there, I just didn't recall it.
I can't remember if it's in 7 or 8, but so I actually don't know. I remember those games being like a very fluid experience, where this one is more chapter-based.
I don't remember there being much that's stopping them. It's like you're just moving through, which 7 is a much smaller. It's like narratively, its scale is much smaller. It's a more personal story, whereas 4 feels like a 90s action movie with horror elements. You know what I mean?
Definitely
like
does.
Not derogatorily. It's like that movie reminds me of like an action film with the way that it tries to set things up and pay things off. The game rather is like an action movie. I don't know if I think I said the film.
It's definitely more action than the previous ones. It's like it scales up towards RE5, so I can see why you'd think that way. But I do think this one's scary, so it's not just like balls to the wall action. There's some scary moments in it, but
I feel that way about 4 original. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that was part of the original game. Like I could definitely get where people were like, well, this one is more action oriented, and clearly it is, but I never felt like it was completely devoid of horror. And that was like my big complaint for 5. Is like 5 really did feel like it just gave up the ghost of trying to be tense. Like it was like, fuck it.
Yeah.
So
I feel like they went for set pieces and action gameplay with the guns and stuff.
Which, let's be real for a second and think about it. You're getting snuck up on.
Oh, jeez. Thanks.
That was so sweet. Also, a little terrifying on camera because I was like, someone is clearly walking up on this man right now. And he's talked about having ghosts in his house. So,
Could you imagine if it was a ghost?
Giving you what looked to be a bowl of chili.
It is. It's
I don't know what it is.
And strawberries.
Oh, nice.
Playable. Looks very
Mama,
good.
Was that Mama Figs?
That was my mother, yes.
Oh, sweet lady. That's how her boy needs some, he needs to be healthy. He needs to eat some granola and strawberry and whatever other stuff. Are you undecided on whether you like it?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Crunch it.
It feels like it should be. Sorry, it feels like it should be ice cream, and it's very much not that. But
or at least frozen yogurt.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I like it.
But yeah, thinking to Resident Evil 5, right? If you think about the landscape of gaming that it came out in, Uncharted was a huge success, and 4 had already went more action oriented. So I'm sure Capcom was like, yeah, we could just, because like, even if you think about what it is, it feels more espionage oriented. This is going to sound a little crazy. I promise I mean this in as loving as a way as I can. For a little while there, it seemed like Resident Evil was on the Fast and Furious trend, like where it was like, it started off as one thing, but as each new entry comes in, we add more layers. So it's like, oh, it's a movie about racing. Oh yeah, of course. Okay, but then it's a undercover cop movie. And then it's an FBI movie, and then it's global espionage.
And then it's a superhero movie, yes.
Yeah, and then people are slinging from vines on cars and going to space, and you just kind of go with it, right? And I
Yeah.
feel like that's what Resident Evil was. It was like city. The upside to it is that it started pretty early because like Resident Evil 1's a pretty seemingly small game, and then 2 really kind of opens up the craziness right toward the end. And then 3 is also pretty small scale, but just a little like, okay, it's just more of that zombie stuff. And then 4 is like, no, fuck it. Espionage, president's daughters.
Well, I feel like it's funny because I guess my opinion on Resident Evil translates to I have the same opinion about Fast and the Furious, where it's just about the escalation of the games, right? It makes sense that in 1, it's the scariest one. You don't know what's going on. You've never experienced zombies before. And then in 2, it's still scary. Leon's never experienced this, but the player has. And you're moving through that in a way where you understand more of the zombies. And then by the time in 3, when it's like, oh, here's the tyrant and here's all these guns and here's a secret laboratory in a basement kind of thing. And then you get to 4 where it's like you said, espionage, president's daughter. Leon is a super spy. And then in 5, it's like, it's action time, baby. And then 6, action time times 4. We're going to space. Wesker's kids here. Let's go. It's the same escalation that is in the Fast and Furious series.
It is funny that in many ways, 7 kind of was like, we got to reset the clock. Like we've kind of got to pull things back and make a smaller scale horror game. Because like 7 is a much scarier game than, honestly, I think 7 may be the most actually scary and tense Resident Evil game, in large part due to the first person camera perspective. But I don't know. It's like you said, it has a lot of the feeling of 1, but in a with the and 1 had that thing where like it was using the camera angles to set the tension because you couldn't control them, which did work. It's a little frustrating going back to, but it did work. It set the tone, and you're like, I don't want to go around this corner because I don't know what's around this corner, and I can't. Do you ever find yourself in games trying to like cheat? Like, I'm going to sit by this corner and kind of like try and rotate the camera so I can see what's on the other side before I move.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I've
so it's kind of like that.
It's a staple of third-person games. I've done it in Resident Evil where I was trying not to die, and I'm like turning the camera and hoping Leon can see if there's anything around the corner, and most of the time he can, so it works out pretty well for me.
Yeah, before you throw caution to the wind. While we're thinking about these types of games, like this more, I don't want to say Resident Evil, but I guess while we're talking about Resident Evil 7 and that first person viewpoint, which I do find to be a lot more tense. A game I never got around to playing, though I know a lot of people love. Did you ever play Alien Isolation?
I've started it a couple times, but no, I've never finished it.
I guess the upside for that is that means you own it.
I do own it, yeah.
I may try and jump into that because I was watching some stuff about it the other day, and it looks really good.
Does it?
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. I guess I'm in that thing where what I've been playing this week has kind of led me to be like, sometimes you just got to buy the hype.
Yeah. So what have you been playing?
So keep going. Well, you have more. I guess I'll let you finish out your quick list. Yeah, go ahead.
So let's see. I platinumed Metagal, which, as I said in our Discord, it is worse than Mega Man, better than Mighty Number 9. I platinumed MLB 23, the show, for the 4th year in a row, 5th time overall.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's all over. I don't know. This could be a year where I don't play very much MLB after this. Kind of burnt out.
Really?
Yeah, it burned myself out a little bit. Because there was some stuff like they updated it and broke one of the game modes that I was doing for a trophy when I had played 27 of the 28 games that I had to play to finish. And then it broke and I couldn't get the trophy I needed. Had to start that over. So that was a grind. The Negro League stuff they do, like it was done really well. Like learning the history and those cutscenes was awesome. But I don't like playing moments. So it was very difficult to be like, to do all this stuff. And if you make one mistake, you've got to do it all over again, which in some of them is fine. Like if it's get one hit and I don't get a hit that game, okay, great. But when some of them are like, pitch 3 innings, don't give up a run, a hit, a walk, it's like, well, shit, you make one mistake and it's over. And it's not that hard. but it's still not what I wanted to do. So by the end of it, I was just like, all right, let's move this along. And then I also got the platinum in Task Force Campus. That was a very interesting game, like a Space Invaders closed. Dude, honestly,
that's the one.
I just saw it in the store and I was like, this looks fun. So I bought it and
it's on Vita.
It's a Vita game. That's where I played it.
Nice.
Yeah, I do recommend it. If you like that Space Invaders type, bullet hellish, Hebroxia type game, it's good.
Sure. Yeah, I got you.
But then my last game has been the HD remaster of Dragon Ball Z Budokai 1 and 3.
Okay.
So that is the last one I've been playing. I've been playing specifically Budokai 1 so far.
So while I didn't get that whenever it first came out, I do remember thinking to myself, this is quite odd that they chose to do 1 and 3. Like,
yeah, I don't get why they don't have 2 in there.
Yeah, I don't really understand that one either, but that's okay. I mean, it is what it is. I don't know, because there's a lot of those HD classics were about bringing the whole series forward. Like the when I've been thinking about playing the Sands of Time again, I'm debating, right? I'm kind of arguing with myself because I'm like, if the remake comes out, if it does anytime soon, I don't want to be burned out on the admittedly fantastic classic. Part of me is like, I can go get that platinum right now, or I could wait and get that platinum with the remake. But what if the remake never comes? Then I've just waited. So I don't know. I'm torn.
But what if the remake does come and you don't mind playing it? So now you've platinumed the old one and the remake.
It's possible. It is incredibly possible, to the point where I've debated getting the platinum in the PS3 version of Shadow of the Colossus HD. Because it's a great game.
Yeah.
Oh, it's rough. It's rough on PS4, but it's a great game.
I still want to go back to finish my Dead Space platinum.
Dude, craziest thing is I feel like platinum design-wise, if you like the way that Resident Evil has you do stuff, you should love the way that Shadow Colossus is, because the whole point is after you've done the game, it's just basically about doing time trials for certain things. There's a little bit more exploration and stuff you've got to do, but for the most part, the hardest part is having to do time trial versions of every Colossus.
That's not bad. Resident Evil is just, for me, it's the power fantasy of I'm doing this thing that I struggled through with an infinite rocket launcher now. Like that, I really enjoy that part.
You don't get that. You don't suddenly have like a one-hit kill sword.
Yeah.
But there is like the fun part of the same thing of being like, this Colossus took me 30 minutes to do the first time as I was learning the puzzle, and then being like, holy shit, I just beat that Colossus in 1 minute and 17 seconds or 2 minutes and 42 seconds. Like it's kind of wild getting to a point where you've learned weird ways to get around. And some of them are ones that I don't even know if they're meant to be there or if they're official. You just figure it out. Like one of them, the guy crashes his sword down into the dirt and it gets stuck, and you can get up on it. And if you get the right spot, whenever he goes to pull it out, it flings you forward. And I just landed right onto the spot. I just guided myself to the weak spot and landed, and immediately was able to get him. So those are fun. It's kind of like the thrill of playing the Hot Wheels game and being like, oh, like the only way you can catch this time is to just find track skip moments. Like I swear, I will continue to. I want to ask one of the developers, like, when you were making this trophy when you were making the challenges that these trophies are in relation to for the time trials, you had to have known. Like you had to have designed it specifically with, you've got to look and be crafty and find ways to skip track. Because there is no way. I've driven perfectly on a full track, no mistakes, and been like 45 seconds off.
Yeah, you have
and
to.
It's just like there's no fucking way. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, that's the same with Resident Evil. Like, there's a skip in the village section, which I don't know. I don't want to get yelled at, so I won't say. But you can skip the entire village fight by doing a specific action, and that's part of it. Like knowing exactly how to get in there, where to go, what to do, and then getting through that in 30 seconds instead of 10 minutes. Awesome feeling. That's what I love. I like seeing numbers go up, but I also like seeing numbers go down.
What I don't like is numbers staying right in the middle.
No. The number must increase. It is the natural order of the universe.
You need variation, huh? You need the
Yes.
life of the life of a number.
Right.
They go up, they go down.
Exactly, but they never stay the same.
Eventually, they end, and you start again. Okay, all right. And so those are your last ones, huh? DBZ Budokai. Man, I'm telling you, I'm gonna be really curious to see. And this is even worse when PS3 controllers are not easy to come by. Do not break your PS3 analog stick trying to make sure that you win the Kamehameha battles.
Yeah, those are rough. Even doing the one where Piccolo does his thing to Vegeta and Goku, that was annoying because you have to rotate the stick and move it. Like, good lord! But I got through it. I'll get through it. We'll see. It'll probably end up being a game I put on my shelf and like having more than I play. But I'm really
trying to remember because. I can't remember if they did it through button press or through the analog stick, since it wasn't really an analog stick. There was a game called Dragon Ball Z Shin Budokai Another Road on the PSP, which amazing, by the way. I remember the time being on PSP and being like, holy crap, this is like a PS2 game in my hands. Of course, the shtick of the PS2 games in your hands. So playing that, and I feel like I remember that the same battle moments, I think they may have translated it, since all you had was the analog slider, like the little nub, and you couldn't really turn that fast because it doesn't protrude and have an easy way to rotate it. Yeah. I think that they changed those to like smashing the hell out of the X button. And I found myself as I get older, like even whenever I was playing The Walking Dead, which I'll get to in a minute, but anytime it tells me, I just put the thing down, controller, handheld, and then just find the button and just like, I don't even try and do it with my thumb anymore. I just do my index finger and be like, we're going to get this shit. Let's go.
That's how you played like Mario Party. Like that's how you play those games. 100%. You put the controller down.
Like the only way you can actually win.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, okay. Do you remember? And I did this with almost everyone that I've played this game with to any little bit. But I know I did it with one of our listeners, and I'm skipping on his name right now. I think Matt is his name. That we were doing a way out trophy, and I know you and I did it too, where we were doing the number of reps that you can do at the start of the game in the prison.
Yeah, and
the whole thing is just constantly hitting the button and it gets harder with every rep.
Yeah,
and I destroyed everyone that I've gone against.
I think you beat me too.
I did.
Yeah.
To be fair, you beat me in getting the farthest baseball hit.
I did. What was it, like 600 feet? Something ridiculous.
It was pretty
anti-science.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. I remember that we were trying to see if we could spend longer on it, and from what we understood, the game doesn't actually have a limit.
Yeah,
so I remember we debated like trying to break just see if we could basically hold this pointless high score, like post it online and be like, beat that bitches. What's
up? Guinness World Records it up.
Maybe we should reapproach that.
We
Guinness,
should
hear us out.
Listen, we want the record for the longest away out home run. We will sit here forever. I remember
that the first time that we got like a pretty crazy distance, it was like, holy shit, like can it go longer? So that was pretty fun. That was like 3 hours of my life I'll never get back, but it was also very fun. So I don't really know that I care.
I thought we had a great time. Sorry about the time of your life that is gone now.
It's all right, Chris. It's a memory I will cherish forever.
Yeah, sounds
and
like
it's a good example. It's a good example of finding your own fun in games. This sounds weird, but I guess technically, to answer Matt Green's question from it was either last week or the week before, it may have been episode 300, when he was saying like, have you ever done any self-imposed challenges in games? Technically, that's all that was. We were like, we're gonna see how far we can get this sumbitch, and like until we just literally have to get off.
Yeah, and it was great. I thoroughly enjoyed that night.
It was a good time. So I got the plat for The Amazing Spider-Man on Vita. Really fun. You talked about the guy who was kind of complaining about the comic pages. And I got to say, I don't know if it was definitely a mix of luck and just paying attention. In between missions that didn't have much high stakes to them, I would just swing around for like 30 minutes, or at 10 o'clock break on work and 3 o'clock break at work, I would just pull out the Vita for 10 minutes and just swing around and grab comic book pages.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time I was done with the story, I already had like 500 or almost 500.
Oh,
and so I
that's
swung
not bad.
around for like an hour and got to 600. And once you hit 600, the rest of the other 100 show up as like yellow dots on the map, just like in Infamous, but of course not for the whole time, sadly. So that was pretty fun. The hard part is, I'm stubborn, and even though I knew I was going for plat, I didn't play the game, which I'd played before, but I didn't play the game with a guide. So I had to go back and replay pretty much every mission from the main story, which thankfully are replayable, to get the collectibles I'd missed in there. I got a lot of them first round, but still.
If only you'd listened to your friendly neighborhood guide, man.
I know, but I don't know, man. It's just not... It's not as fun. Like, I really like playing the game just to play the game, and then being like, now it's trophy knockout time. If I need a guide for a few of these, I'll get them.
Yeah. I guess I'm just more efficient with my time in that way, which is okay. That's not a bad thing. I just would rather skip that second step. That's how I tend to play.
I don't blame you. So I got the plat in that. Great game. Good time. I still stand by the fact that the only real issues with that game are that it had to get out of the door by a certain time, and it had to be stuck between two movies. I really wish it'll never happen, but I wish that Beanox would have actually gotten the time to make a proper time schedule and proper budgeted Spider-Man game, because I think they had enough love and care for the series. I just don't. I think they have the exact love and care that Insomniac has. They just didn't necessarily have the tech or the backing of their publisher.
Yeah,
which we know for sure now, because they're a Call of Duty support dev now.
Rip.
Ugh.
They made some great games. They did War for Cybertron too, didn't they?
No, that was a High Point or
High Moon. High Moon.
Yeah, High Moon, dude. I miss them so much. Mm-hmm. They are the ones that did. They're the ones that did Deadpool. They did War for Cybertron, of course, and then what is War for Cybertron? What's the other one? Why can't I think of it?
I don't know. I can't think
Fall
of it.
Fall of Cybertron, I think is.
Oh yeah.
Now I gotta know. Yeah, Transformers, War for Cybertron, and then Fall of Cybertron. Great games. Holy crap, so good. And then Deadpool is, of course, a great game as well. I don't think Deadpool is as good as either of the Transformers games personally, but that's okay.
No.
Still good game.
Deadpool's fun. It's fun.
Deadpool
it's not good. Fun. There's a difference.
It's the problem with Activision across the board, right? Raven has made some killer games. And every studio that makes cool games that just don't get a chance to really perform because they're rushed out of the door from Activision, they're like, you make good games. So Call of Duty support studio, let's go.
Make some maps.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I got the plat and Thy Sword, which is another Vita game. So get this out of the door. I've not touched my PS5 except to play Pavlov. Played Pavlov this weekend with John. John, I know you're listening. Had a good time. Did some more TTT. So basically Among Us. Had a great time screwing around, playing for another 4 hours. Time going by like you didn't even know it. Thy Sword. So that's the only time I've played PS5. The rest of this week I've been literally on my Vita, just glued to it. So Thy Sword, easy game to play while doing other stuff, watching TV. I like those, and I'm trying to introduce those here and there into them. It's like a side scroller combat game where you choose a class and you go through and clear areas, and it's like I'm trying to even think of a game to compare it to, because it's like you move into a tile set and it's just a whole level that stays there and doesn't change, but you can go all around and you have to clear all the enemies, and then it unlocks the door. Is
it Advanced Warzy?
No, it's like a 2D side scroller, but you don't. It's not a side scroller. It's more just like a side action platforming game where you have the whole level visible in your frame at once, and you just know the platforms and move around it. There's probably games that are more like it. I'm just not as familiar with, like maybe. What's the Konami game that everyone, the old war game? And I might be wrong. That may not even be like that.
I have no idea.
Why can I not think of it?
Metal Slug? No, that's SNK.
Is it Commando? Is that what it's called? No, it's not Commando. Damn, what is that game called? It's going to kill me. The Capcom code. No, it's not Capcom code. The Konami code. I don't know, whatever it is. I don't care. My point being is it was a fun game.
Contra.
There you are. And I might be wrong. Contra may be a side-scrolling actual game. I really don't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember either. I know the name. I never played much of Contra.
Yeah, me either. And then they had that Bionic Commando. So maybe it's more like Bionic Commando's old games.
Yeah,
I think Bionic Commando may also be slide-scrolling.
The main character's wife is a main character. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, she's a main character. You're talking about the PS3 reboot, right?
Yeah, Rearmed or whatever.
Yeah, interesting game. I like the way it looked and played, though.
Yeah.
Stupid story. Incredibly dumb story.
Terrible story. It's really a fun PS3 era story. We don't get games that dumb anymore.
Ah, dude. But also, conversely,
Dark Void.
PS3 era stories. I finally got around to playing The Walking Dead, which I never played because I'm not a big Walking Dead fan. And at the time that it came out, I didn't know anything about Telltale. So I didn't even know that Telltale really existed until we got Tales from the Borderlands for free on PS Plus.
Yeah.
And I was like, well,
game.
This was great game. And I don't even really care for Borderlands much. So I was like, all right, let's see what this is about. And so I got the Batman games. I did those. I did the Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy one. I did Wolf Among Us.
Great
So
games.
I never played this one. And I went back and played it. And man, it's kind of like playing the Sam & Max games that they did as well, where I like that this is clearly more story-driven than Sam & Max. But there's still that element of like, you've got to figure out what you've got to do sometimes. Like you've got to puzzle solve as you do in adventure games. And a beautiful story, great characters, and a really good example of how interactivity can really change the potency of something. Because I'm going to tell you right now, what may be a hot take.
Okay.
Not saying one is better than the other as just what it is, but I think that The Walking Dead, by nature of making you make the decision and then live with your decisions, is more effective at telling a very similar story to The Last of Us than The Last of Us is.
That's a hot take.
That is a hot take, and I was aware of it while I was saying it, but I think the difference is that there's very sad moments, and I remember tearing up at the beginning, the intro of The Last of Us, and of course the ending of The Last of Us. But the thing is that you have no agency in that game. Your agency in a game like The Last of Us is to just do what the game asks you or stop playing it.
Yeah.
That's only decisions you have. And so I think the relationship between Clem and Lee feels way stronger to you as the player because you have to make decisions that leads to her feeling a certain way toward you. Mm-hmm. And you know the level of that thing based off of what you've done and the way that it chooses to have your decisions make some kind of impact on the game. So yeah, I was very impressed to the point where I would have never thought so, but I really want to play the rest of the Walking Dead series from Telltale. Very good.
Did you give Doc a high five?
I did. 100% I did.
Good.
I don't even want to talk about Duck right now.
Yeah.
It's too soon, Chris.
You're
not
ready for that yet?
I'm not ready to talk about it.
Now I just want to talk about that game. What a
we can talk about it after, because I'm telling you, I can talk about Duck on the show. Maybe not. Because I don't want to ruin it for anyone who maybe not have played it. Because where I was going earlier, sometimes games have hype around them that persists for years.
Mm-hmm.
And when it does, even if you don't think it's your type of game, sometimes it's worth to just go into it and see. Because I can tell you without a doubt, even though it's an old game that I was playing on the Vita, also praise be to modded Vitas, because this game was running at 60 frames per second most of the time.
Yeah, it was.
Ironically, I thought to myself, if I was playing this on PS3, I bet this game's 30 frames per second.
Yeah, I believe so. If that. 10, 15 sometimes probably.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, there was times that this game comes down into like the 20s for some weird reason, but for the most part, it was 45 to 60. And I don't know if it's because of the small screen or because it's OLED, but I never see screen tearing. It's like it's way more noticeable on a bigger screen when frame rates move around. But I just keep the frame rate ticker up in the upper left corner. But yes, being able to overclock the Vita is a lifesaver. It's the only way that The Amazing Spider-Man is a actually great game on Vita. It's the only way that this game, which constantly gets shit on for terrible performance, had zero issues out of the game. No crashes, nothing. Ran at a great frame rate. It's like slightly long load time, sure, and you can tell when it's about to be a decision moment because the game kind of stops and you're like, oh, it's like background loading for just a second. But fantastic. I mean, really, to the point where I'm thinking of playing The Wolf Among Us again because it's a fantastic game on Vita just to get another platinum and just to see how it runs on Vita.
Hey, man, go for it. I wish those Batman games were on the Vita because I would play those again.
See, this is a crazy thing. The three games that everyone, like the first three games realistically, they got really known for. So Walking Dead, Wolf Among Us, and Telltale Borderlands. Now I have those three, right?
Mm-hmm.
They got consistently worse after that. They're great games, but they had crashing problems, bugs. I didn't experience a single bug in this. Oh, I take that back. For some reason, the very tail end of a sentence, like it was a second sentence at the very end of the game, final chapter, that Omid says.
Yeah.
Just like the I have subtitles on, so I saw what it was supposed to be. It just didn't say it.
Really?
And what's more funny is that even though he didn't say it, it didn't change the context of anything. So if you didn't have subtitles on and you didn't know, you would just be like, oh, okay, he was just done talking. So, but other than that, I had zero problems out of that game. And I had countless problems out of both Batman games and the Guardians of the Galaxy one. But still, great games. I do think... I'm curious, did you find that you like the adventure game elements that are more present in The Walking Dead than I feel like later games just feel like they became all about decision making?
They did. I would say that. I liked it to a degree. I think it makes them a little less like a quick pick up and play decision, but they're not long games to begin with, but it's definitely a little bit more engaging than let me
I'd
just see
like
a story.
9 hours, maybe what that just took me.
Probably
which is not long, there. But
it's not long. But I mean, I don't know. Telltale's an interesting thing because all their games were good, but they never hit this peak again. It's very hard. This is like I think I said it to you before you finished it. Where I was like, easily the best modern story in video game history, and I think that's still true. I can't think of anything better. But they never came close to that again.
The craziest thing is that in the last episode, right? The last episode of it, so episode 5, it started off a little slow to the point where I was like, oh man, this actually kind of like messed up the really high tension and pacing coming into it from the end of episode 4. And so when I started it, I was like, I was like, man, Chris gave all this high praise, and I was like, I'm a little worried that it's gonna miss the landing and still be a good game that I'm glad I played, but it's going to miss the landing a bit.
Yeah.
And then right there, like the last half of it, I was like, holy shit, man. It's like they just they decided to give you a calm before the storm, I guess, because woo, yeah, it's pretty wild. And that ending is very effective. Again, because you are making the decisions. Mm-hmm. So it's very different than seeing someone where a writer said, I'm going to make this character do this.
Right.
Which leads to an interesting thing. You know, I think a while back I asked about whether or not you think of why can't I think of the Shepherd as an individual character, or if you look at it more as something you've projected your will onto. And I got to tell you, Lee, the entire time I was playing the game, I played the game as though I were Lee. Like Lee was just my vessel to be like, this is the kind of person I am. I'm going to be the best person. Like, yeah, Lee has character. Like, you know, he was going to prison. He killed somebody. I won't say too much more than that. But so Lee has things that make you look at him and go, oh, and he has these reasons. But then I think of like, okay, if I were in his shoes and I had done what he did, would I tell people? What would I tell them? Would I withhold certain things? Would I choose to be honest? Would I choose to lie? And really, it was just me exerting my will onto him. Yeah. I don't know. I think I've learned that when it comes to that, it's also what makes the story so much better. Is I feel like I had a relationship with Clem rather than Lee had a relationship with Clem. Whereas when I'm playing The Last of Us, I'm like, Joel has a relationship with Ellie. And it's not me. I'm just controlling Joel. But Joel is a character who does things without my input. But everything that Lee does has my input.
Yeah, your Lee. That's your story, where The Last of Us is you experiencing Joel and Ellie's story. I get that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Last one that I didn't know, you were talking about a Space Invaders game, well, more like a Galaga style game. I had Super Destronaut DX. I've had it for a long time on there. At one point in time, I don't remember if I got it from Josh or not. So Josh Shoop, he sent me a bunch of Ratalaika codes. So that's where I got like the Siberian code, and I mean, really a bunch of them. I don't know when I got this or if I bought it, but perfectly fine game. And then I started up right before we came onto the show, Super Destronaut Land Wars, which is like a first-person shooter variant of it.
Oh,
where
shit.
Like
okay,
it's like neon first-person shooter blocks. Like it's nothing crazy, but it's fun. They're very arcadey games.
I'll give it a look.
So you know how Galaga is like single dimension, like it's stuff coming down and you just got to deal with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's actually pretty interesting that this is Galaga, but then there's things coming at you from this third dimension that you have to look at. So as you're going side to side, there are like dead bodies of aliens that are of the little things where if you let them hit you, they'll do damage. So you have to pay attention to not only where the monsters are, but where you are, so that it's interesting. It's kind of like how the Collins game, Twin Breaker, kind of gave a new interesting element to a brick breaker. It's like, oh, okay, something I hadn't thought of before. Now I got to control two things at once. So
yeah,
pretty fun.
I looked at that. I think I'll end up giving it a try at some point.
Nice. Well, hey, we got a question real quick, and I felt like this is a good time to go into it because we're talking about so much. We've both been playing so many older games for the most part. I've played exclusively older games this week. So Jehudi MD, one of our patrons, says, when did you know that you were passionate about PlayStation? Any specific game that pushed you over? Mine was Crash Bandicoot 2 on the original PlayStation. So Chris, of course, longtime listeners like Jehudi can remember when Saul and I did a similar episode where we kind of talked about things like this. But you've talked a little bit about your past of kind of being more of an Xbox kid and then coming into PlayStation midway through PS3, if I recall.
Yeah. Yep.
So do you know when was it that you felt like, okay, yeah, I'm just a PlayStation dude? Like, when did that hit you?
I mean, it hit me. I think I was always like back and forth until I started to get into trophies. But the story I always tell about when I finally got a PS3 is I went to my buddy Sean's and he had Killzone 2. And at the time, playing Killzone 2 was like the coolest thing I'd ever done. And I still remember going home and going to sleep and having a dream about playing Killzone 2 on PS3, and then taking my Xbox to GameStop and trading it in and buying a PS3 with Killzone 2 like almost immediately after that. And then ever since then, really, I've had PS3s and stuff, PlayStation consoles. So that was my in, was Killzone 2 and my boy Rico.
Killzone 2, because I didn't play Killzone 1. So Killzone 2 was not my first entry into the series, but it was my first real one, because the other one that I had given was, I played the PSP one, Liberation. Great game. So I was already kind of hyped on Killzone from there. And then they showed 2, and I was like, this looks incredible. And not the CG, this is fake gameplay bullshit that they accidentally said. But when they actually first showed it, I was like, this looks incredible. I've never seen anything like this. And then I played it and I remember like, dude, this is weighty and realistic, and people bitch all the time about the way that Killzone feels, but I'll tell you, Killzone feels so good to me, because I'm like, I've never played a game that feels like this. And to me, it's like, I don't want every shooter game to feel the same. And there's a real novelty to Killzone being like, no, fuck it. Everything's weighty. You have to really think about your body weight. Like when you're moving, you feel like you're running, carrying a gun. I don't know. I liked it. It's so different than a lot of the games where it's like you're a super soldier and you have, shield and you can jump 80 feet in the air and your gun weighs nothing to you. I like how visceral and realistic Killzone was while still being decidedly sci-fi.
Yeah, I'm a big Killzone guy. I would love it if they brought it back.
Me too, man. But if nothing else, I've got my memories of Killzone Mercenary, which is essentially the perfect blend of Killzone 2 and 3.
Yeah,
and a little
it's
handheld.
Certainly a good game. I'm sad I missed out on the trophies for it, but alas.
So close.
So close. I tried so hard.
Got so far.
But in the end, it really didn't matter.
So I think I've probably said this one before, but it was actually Crash Bandicoot 1. But I'd say that's what got me to like, oh, I'm hooked and I love PlayStation and I want to do this. But I didn't have my own PlayStation yet, right? At that point, I was still having to play my dad's. So it was like we had the Sega that he gave us, the Genesis, and then I'd have to wait to play that. And I'd play it here and there. And I remember when I beat Crash Bandicoot 1, I was like, I felt like I could kill the world because I was 6. Maybe 5 running around. And before we got our new house built when we were young, we were still in a trailer, and I was just running through the trailer, like, arms flexed, like, whoa, because you just feel high on the world. But I'd say it kind of reinvigorated itself for me because that was there, but I didn't have the access that I wish I had, right? And once I had full access to it, which was a little late in the PS1 life system, we went to my cousin's house and played Crash Bandicoot 3. Fantastic game. Loved that game to death. But he also had Symphony of the Night, and that was the first time I had ever played Symphony of the Night. I didn't even know what it was. I saw this PS1 case with this dope-looking castle on, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? This looks incredible. This looks cool as shit. And popped it in, and I played it for like 7 hours straight.
Wow.
Like just sitting there and yeah, that was a great time. I mean, really, that was where I felt like, yeah, okay, I thought I wanted the PlayStation before, but now I want one even more. There's a lot of PS1 games that I wish memory served me better on that I would love to try and find again. But yeah, it goes all the way back to the original PlayStation, which is something I'm happy about. I'm very proud of because I do love PlayStation, and I know they're a company at the end of the day, but they have a lot of my love for gaming came specifically from playing PlayStation. Like if it wasn't for PlayStation, I don't know if I'd have ever gotten into gaming to the degree that I am, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It woke something up inside you.
It did. And then Kingdom Hearts just kept going, and God of War, PlayStation was basically responsible for my formative years. My parents were getting divorced. My friends were moving away. My dad was. I don't want to get into it, but yeah. So thankfully, I had video games. That was pretty cool. I'm glad that. So good question, Jehudi. Thank you, sir. We have the community's take. We're going to run through now. Man, y'all gave a lot of answers. So I do have a bunch of them on here, but we're going to try and move through this a little quickly. So Chris had, of course, his great idea where he's talking about the blank check last week, and we chose to make that the community stake. So if you're unfamiliar, the community stake is where we, at the end of the episode, we look at something we've either talked about throughout the episode or just think of a fun question of a way to kind of give you guys in the community a chance to give us your feedback, give us your thoughts on things, let us hear differing opinions, things that you love. And sometimes we find really interesting things that we never thought of in that, or games that we've never heard of. So Chris's was, if you were given a blank check by Sony to give to any developer in order to secure a PlayStation exclusive, who would the developer be and what would the game be? New IP from a beloved developer or a return to a beloved IP? So, of course, we got a bunch. First one is short, sweet, simple. I knew it, but I had to get him to say it. Sweet Gran Turismo Jones wants Tourist Trophy, which it's deep cut. I only know about it because of him, but I'm aware of it in my life now. So, Polyphony Digital, of course, have made some games that were not Gran Turismo. The team that went on to make Gran Turismo actually made a game that I adore that is called MotorTune Grand Prix. And they made that, and I have that game, love that. But they also made this little motorcycle game called Tourist Trophy. In between like Gran Turismo 2 and 3, or maybe it was between 3 and 4. It was a PS2 game. Ryan is a diehard, just steadfast fan, and he wants them to one day return to something sim related, but not necessarily car focused. So there you are. Polyphony
All
Digital. Stingray X, one of our patrons, he says, I want Sony to acquire Level 5 and make the third Dark Cloud. Give us the cel-shaded feel with the mechanics of 2 without the time travel and a vast open world. So, Chris, I've never played. This is my confession moment. I've never played either of the Dark Cloud games.
No, I have not.
I don't know if I've even played a Level 5 game. I never played White Knight Chronicles. I thought I might because it looked interesting, and then I just didn't. I never played Ni no Kuni. I've watched someone play it.
I played some of Ni no Kuni, so I have played it.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't have that love there, but I know people do love it. Speaking on the cel-shaded feel, maybe I'm crazy, but first and foremost, The Walking Dead on Vita looked fantastic. I was really impressed. I'm like, this looks great for a Vita game, which it was, of course, a console port, so it makes sense. I kind of like the comic booky look.
I don't disagree. I don't mind it.
I kind of think I like the way that this kind of feels weird, but I kind of think I like the way that The Wolf Among Us and The Walking Dead look in comparison to the later Telltale games. There's something more artistically driven about them to me, like just the right, like, oversized proportions for eyeballs and stuff, but still looking good, but in a stylistic manner.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really was impressed with how it looked, and it ran pretty well on Vita.
You want stylized bug eyes, right?
Yeah, why not, right?
Yeah, let me get them.
So while I forgot to say it earlier, weird question for you, Chris. I realized as I was rolling credits on lunch for The Walking Dead,
cleaning
right
up all your tissues.
I was tearing up. I realized that. I mean, I was so whenever I posted the platinum for Rude Cold, one of our patrons, longtime listeners, he was like, "Did you cry? Because if you didn't, you're dead inside." Great point, dude. The ending is really powerful, and like I said, to a degree that felt far more gut punching than The Last of Us. A game I also, and interesting, I cried at the beginning of The Last of Us. I tear up there,
100%.
And I don't think I really do the rest of the game, but this game was right at the end when it kind of felt like, oh, wow, here's the moment. And it was so strong. And I realized as credits were rolling, it's like, I know it's a console game technically, but I realized up until today, I don't think I've ever teared up or cried over a handheld game.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I have either, so.
That's the power of Vita, baby. We should get the Pine Sol lady back in and do a whole new Vita ad campaign. That's all it needed. It's just
Vita means tears.
Oh, no. Let's see. Next one up. No Fate, one of our patrons, says, I have to give credit to Sony for allowing their studios to still put passion into their exclusives. I would use it to acquire EA and give back the passion. The main goal of giving Microsoft's Call of Duty a real challenge for best first-person shooter. Titanfall, Bad Company, Medal of Honor. What I really want, surprised it hasn't already happened, I don't know what he's talking about. He says, I'm surprised it has already happened with Battlegrounds. I don't know what he's talking about. Maybe PUBG? What are Battlegrounds?
PUBG.
Did they rename the game just Battlegrounds?
No, I think they renamed it to PUBG.
Players Unknown. Oh, from Players Unknown?
Yeah.
Battleground? Interesting. Anyway, he says, is a Transformers-themed Twisted Metal style game. Vehicle mode for speed defense and bot mode for more powerful special attacks. The idea writes itself. I love that idea, actually, and I'm a little surprised that it's not been made. I think that's a great idea.
I do like it.
It kind of exists because in Twisted Metal Black, Sweet Tooth's special move is that the head on the ice cream truck goes in and kind of folds up and he becomes a mech that runs around and you shoot. That's enough proof of concept for me because it's one of the most fun special moves in the entire Twisted Metal series. So, I think you've got a winner on your hands. I don't know who has the Transformers game rights at this particular moment, if anyone does, but last I know it was Activision. So hit up Activision. Oh, wait, they're in the middle of something.
I think they're busy. But you could always try.
They're busy having all of their studios make Call of Duty.
Hey, there's that new Crash Bandicoot thing. Crash Bandicoot Rumble, I think it is.
Yeah, Crash Rumble, something like that.
Don't look good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a game for me, but I do think it's at least priced better because I think it's only $40 or $30, one of those two. It's priced to a point where I'm like, okay, because if you try to tell me that was a $60 game, that ain't it, Doug. Let's see. Robert Phillips says, give me Rockstar and make The Punisher.
Okay.
So that's a game he wants to see. There you are.
Would it be Rockstar who's the best pick for that, though?
For The Punisher?
Yeah.
I was trying to think through, like, okay, so if you have if you had to give 3 devs that you'd be okay with seeing attached to a game for The Punisher, who would it be? I feel like, do you know where I feel like this is coming from? I feel like he's thinking about, because, if you think about Punisher, he's pretty brutal, right?
Yeah.
I think they're looking at like Manhunt Rockstar.
Yeah, okay. I still don't think that's the best pick for Punisher.
The Warriors Rockstar. It's like combat driven. But okay, so who do you think?
Remedy, first one that came to mind. That seems like it would be
Actually, yeah. But I feel like the thing that would end up happening is that I feel like Max Payne already is kind of Punisher-y.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's not on purpose. But then I think that the problem you end up with is that you just get a game that feels like Max Payne again. And
yeah, but that's okay. I would just make Max Payne the Punisher.
And go, I mean, it would be good.
No, but I'm talking
I just don't
literally.
think it would feel as original.
Max Payne in the suit, but with the skull.
Becomes the Punisher?
Yeah. No, I think this is a weird pick. It's not. No. The Coalition, I would take if I could get them away. Yeah. Give me a third-person cover-based shooter about the Punisher. It seems kind of like the perfect pick.
Okay. All right, one more. Okay. You got one more in you?
Yeah, this one's off the wall, but I'm going with it. Persona team.
So like a Japanese-inspired Punisher?
Yeah. Yep.
I feel like it would end up going way overboard, and it would end up being like the Punisher, but meets Elfin Lied. I don't know if you've ever seen Elfin Lied.
I've never seen that.
You should look up a little bit of it.
Yeah.
The Punisher meets Hellsing.
All right, I'll have to look it up.
Hellsing's also a sick anime. Oh my god!
I'm just saying, if you think about the Punisher and like it's just exactly like Persona, but it's the Punisher as the guy leading the Phantom Thieves. You've got like Daredevil in there with him, and I don't know, Batman. Like it would be great.
Basically, it's Marvel's Midnight Suns.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's see. We got Shafe Dog 247, TT Dog, and Jehudi all kind of on the same page here. So Shafe Dog starts off, says, "I'd write 2 checks."
Ooh,
so he's stretching the rules, but we're gonna assume that he took the 1 check and just photocopied it.
Mm-hmm.
And was like, they'll have to forgive me. He just wrote the next check number. He was like, oh, okay, check number 327669. Okay, 327670. Okay. Anyway, he says, I'd write 2 checks. 1 to Blue Point to remake the Resistance series. My man. The second, I'd write to Microsoft to get the IPs for Blue Dragon and Quantum Break. Would really like Blue Dragon to be reimagined by Pixel Opus, which is a crazy studio choice, but I'm not against it. And he says, and the Quantum Break game also remastered and worked to begin on a sequel, but I'd give this to Sony Bend. I don't hate that choice.
I really don't hate because they should be working on Days Gone 2.
Days Gone 2. I know it.
And Blue Point is busy with Bloodborne 2. So you've got some problems, but I like where your head's at on it.
We'll let it go. So on the back of that, TT Dog 666, one of our patrons, he says Mistwalker. And so that is, of course, a developer. And I learned something this week. It's upside of doing a show like this, right? I knew that Lost Odyssey and Blue Dragon were exclusives to 360, but I always thought they were Square Enix exclusives, like the Last Remnant. They're not. Those 2 games were from Mistwalker. So that is news to me, or maybe Blue Dragon wasn't. I think it was, though. But yeah, Mistwalker is a developer that the creator of Final Fantasy went off and made separately. So yeah, he says he wants a proper follow-up to Lost Odyssey. Once you got past the first city, that was one of the best JRPGs of the 360 PS3 generation. I think the Lost Odyssey and the Last Remnant both got PS4 Xbox One ports, did they not? I know the Last Remnant did.
I don't think Lost Odyssey did. I can check that while you read the next one.
Yeah, curiosity. And then Jehudi MD comes back in, one of our patrons, mirroring that as well. It says, get back the people who worked on Resistance and remaster the original games and then release a new game in that universe that is a AAA survival horror first-person shooter. That's an interesting choice, actually. If you feel like, okay, well, can Resistance survive as what it was? Then why don't you just lean further into some of the more horrific parts of what the series did have to offer? Definitely games like 3, where it went decidedly darker and a little bit more of like a Bioshock tone to it, and maybe even like a Mad Maxy tone to certain areas. I think you could pull that off. I don't think you want to make it full on, but I think you give it a lot more survival horror, almost like Metro does, but you make sure you don't lean too far into what Metro's doing. I think that could be cool. That's a good choice. Last one we're going to do here. Kai Grimm says, he's one of our patrons as well. Community's take is a tough question for me, but it goes back to a similar question in the past where I would love to have a new SOCOM. The yearly Call of Duty just doesn't do it for me anymore. And behind large-scale advertising, I could see SOCOM heavily invested in and to make a solid comeback. That or make Counter-Strike on the PlayStation 5 and put effort and care into it. I'd bring in servers and allow you to purchase a server to be able to customize to your liking. Specific maps option for no AWP gun. Bring back my middle school years and early high school on the PC to consoles. The range of being able to do so builds communities with ranking systems, and having a community Discord specifically just for that Counter-Strike server. I can only dream of reliving those years. Some of my favorite times playing a game online. I just got home from work, so I rambled a bit, but that's what I would do if I had a blank check from Sony. One of those two games with that option of customization. It's always nice when you can pick a trusted server full of good people and regulars, sort of like the Discord we have here. Well, thank you, good sir. The ability to play one of the most popular genres of online gaming with your whole community night after night is truly something I miss in gaming. Chris, you're far more online driven in gaming than I am, but I have had my spats with very heavily online focused games. And I realized that I don't know that my drive to play online is gone so much as my time is not there, to where I'd rather use the time to play unique stories and experiences than I would trying to schedule. Part of it's schedule too, right? Like, I love playing games with you when we get the chance to.
Absolutely.
But our schedules so seldom line up that it's almost an impossibility. And the same with my friends. I don't really play games with Saul very often. I don't play games with my buddy Seth very often. I play games with Donovan probably more than anyone. And it's like I have to really plan and make that. So it's like, I think most of it is that instead of trying to chase the years of my youth where I could make that happen on a whim, I just kind of focus elsewhere. But I do love online gaming. It definitely has its place.
Yeah, I'm kind of at a point where I apologize if any of my friends are listening, but I tend to just turn on my PS5 and immediately just set myself offline. Because I'm like, if you invite me, I'm going to play with you. But I kind of just want to play Resident Evil 4 right now, which has resulted in a lot less. Like, I haven't played Apex in 2-3 months. I haven't played Diablo since that 1 week because I'm like, I just don't want to be in a party, like I just don't want to play that way. So it's becoming less of a thing for me for sure.
Well, here lately, I've been in just a funk in general. I've talked about being in a gaming funk, but I think I've just been in a slight, it's one of those weird things where you don't want to say it because it makes you sound weird and maybe weak, even though we all go through it. I think I've just been in like a light depression lately.
I get that.
Where it's like, I don't think I have much. It's like I'm pushing myself to do the things I have to do, like work on the house next door and stuff. But I think I've been way more focused on some nights I just stopped gaming. Like last night, I probably could have gotten the platinum in Walking Dead last night. And I was just like, it's 8:30, it's pitch black outside, but I'm not feeling great. I mean, like I'm just going to go out and ride this motorcycle. And I felt really good just riding around and being outside. and just kind of being away from everything. I don't know. I've had a weird go of it lately. And actually, I can go ahead and throw this out there. You may have noticed that last week's video version of the episode didn't go up. I had like the first day I was trying to get it up, I had a little computer issue. And I just kind of let that be my excuse to not do it the rest of the week. I just could not bring myself to do it. And so I did it Monday. I did it yesterday. I got the episode up, and I've still yet to even make a thumbnail. I've just been like, I don't know. I've been in that. While I'm doing the episode, I'm good because, like, I guess there's like the accountability of you being on here with me. But the moment that goes out, it's like I'm just kind of going bare minimum. I guess in my mind, I'm like, most people listen, not nearly as many people watch, so it's not as big of a deal. Work's been crazy busy. Life's been crazy busy. So I don't know. It's been a weird time. And I think that's impacting that because for a while there on Saturdays, I'd play online with my friends, and I haven't done that in forever either. So
yeah, it all happens to the best of us, man. I get it. You'll just have to hire an editor.
I think I needed that. I think I needed that good cry from The Walking Dead earlier, just to get a good cry out. You know, sometimes you just need that.
You need to balance your chi with a good cry. I understand it.
Yeah, man. You know, I know that Dane Cook can sometimes be a contentious. Like, people don't always love him as a comedian, but he's got this joke in his stand-up Rough Around the Edges where he talks about sometimes you just go home and it's like you just need a good cry and you just break down, start crying, and it's true. It's funny because it's true. And you know, normally I can't allow myself to do that unless something pushes me. So yeah, I got pushed.
I get it, man. I get it.
So let's see. We're gonna jump into the news. There's not a ton to talk about. First piece up here, and actually before we get too far in there, first and foremost, if you're liking the show, and I know I just admitted to being lazy about it, listen, we're just taking an opportunity to be truthful about what's going on. But if you're enjoying the show and you like what we have going on, if you're watching on YouTube, consider subscribing, talking to us in the comments. We love to hear from you guys. If you're listening on a podcast service and it gives you the ability to subscribe, please feel free to do so. If it gives you the ability to rate and or review the show, consider doing that. It helps people find the show, lets us know what you do and don't like about it. It's led us to things like timestamps and being cognizant of where we put certain segments, like the Velvet Corner, that we know not everyone's into. It's a clearly ridiculous part of the show, so we choose to put it at the end purposely so that there's a clean, easy spot for people to drop out of who don't want to do that, who want to be a little more focused on the actual fully gaming talk, whereas Velvet's Corner can go anywhere. So yeah, basically we appreciate it if you go that extra mile for us. That's true. So goes. First piece of news, something wicked this way comes. I still stand by that being a fantastic chapter, the final chapter of the Triangle Squared game that we talked about.
Yeah, I do like that.
Yeah,
that's a good name.
Okay, first piece of news. Ubisoft will be showing what's next for The Division on Thursday, April 20th. They will show the year 5 of The Division 2. That does not feel like 5 years ago. More on The Division Heartland and a mobile game, Division Resurgence. Watch on Ubisoft's Twitch and YouTube channels. Thursday's presentation will begin at 11 a.m. PDT, 2 p.m. EDT, 7 p.m. GMT, and 8 p.m. CEST. And if you live in one of the other T's, then guess what? You're just going to have to do the conversion because Chris is not a machine. He gave you 4 time periods. That's pretty good.
I did what I can.
You know, whenever your Vita sits for a long time and then dies and you have to restart it, I'm always like GMT plus 8. I don't know. I have to figure out what it actually is. But yeah, good time. I'm so glad you're playing Vita.
Yeah.
Also, I was looking through my trophies because, like, you know, you still have to sync with the server on Vita because it's old.
Yeah, very old.
And I realized that I pretty much don't play my Vita unless whatever I'm playing, I'm going to platinum. Because my entire Vita on system trophy list is almost entirely platinums. There's like maybe 2 games that are not.
That's pretty good, though. It's a good completion percentage.
Good. I was looking, I was like, wow, this is kind of impressive. Like, I don't know, man. It's perfect. These games are perfect for what I've been going through. Just throw on some TV and just be able to be present while playing something stupid with a little bit of challenge to it. Good time. Let's see. Next piece of news. WB has announced Quidditch Champions, a complete standalone Quidditch experience that engages players in the sport of Quidditch and other broomstick adventures alongside friends in a competitive multiplayer setting. That's their quote they chose to give. The game has been in development for several years at Unbroken Studios, a studio whose biggest project thus far has been collaborating with Rocksteady on Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League. Sign-ups for playtesting the game are open now. So, Chris, first and foremost, you called it. I think the only thing I would say is I don't necessarily feel like you called it would be another developer. It may have been implied. But I definitely took it as you saying that Avalanche would be the one to break it off and make it separate. And I felt like that was not going to be the case. So I'm going to give it, I think we were both right in a capacity because I definitely thought this was coming.
I'm just going to take the win. You can have your win if you want to force your way into a win. I was right. And I'm just going to take it. I'm going to take it. I had no inclination.
Look,
I just
you can
knew
have the W.
I just knew there was no chance they were going to let a game that was very clearly monetizable be a DLC for Hogwarts Legacy. It just made complete sense.
The moment that they said that it was going to not be in Hogwarts Legacy, I'm like, oh, it's going to be somewhere. Not in Hogwarts Legacy.
I prefer
and
this,
it makes sense. Like, no, I think it's the right move. Because while I get people would want to live that fantasy out with this character they've created as part of this bigger world, I don't think that the mechanics necessary for Quidditch would either you'd waste way too much time developing ones that are actually competent enough for it to work inside of Hogwarts Legacy, and then it feels like you created this entire set of mechanics that only really works in this one game mode. That would be to the detriment of the game, in my opinion, because it would have taken development resources away somewhere else. And then secondarily, it probably still wouldn't have been as good as this is going to be, being bespoke, standalone, only Quidditch. You don't have to worry about getting on and off the broom. All you got to worry about is, how does the broom feel? How do you choose to maneuver it? How does this work with these mechanics? It's a smarter use. Having a team that's making an RPG for all intents and purposes be like, okay, how do we perfect a broomstick sport is a waste of effort and time. Yeah,
I would completely agree.
Like if I was the one in the team and we're like, hey, we want to do Quidditch, I'd be like, fucking no. That's a terrible idea.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Very few games do it, and most of the time it's turn-based to some degree, kind of like Final Fantasy X. Like, yeah, you have that game mode in there. You have Blitzball, but it's a lot easier to pull off in the world and styles of Final Fantasy X because it's turn-based. I mean, yeah, it's very different. But yeah, you have any thoughts on that outside of the fact that you had a hunch?
No, I don't. I don't think I need to give my thoughts again. Like I went through everything I would say here when we talked about it last. So
sure, you think
I don't
you'll
have
play
much
this?
else to add. 100%.
I have zero interest in this.
Oh, I want to play this very badly.
I'm not a Harry Potter fan to that degree, though. So
I'm a huge Harry Potter fan, and I was left a little cold by Hogwarts Legacy, so I need to find another entrance into that world until
dip out of this.
Oh yeah, 100%. I don't know that it's going to be like my next
you play
Apex,
it for 10 minutes.
It's gonna find the problem of everything else, right? It could be awesome, like Multiverses. Awesome game. I couldn't get a single person to play it with me, and it's going to be the same situation here.
See, that is the problem with online gaming, though, is that no one, and I don't know if this has always been the case. I feel like used to people were more willing to just hop randomly online and just meet people. Great part of VR. I am hopping on with John, but then we're just talking with the whole group. We don't even stay in our party chat. We start a party chat just to get set up, and then we switch to game chat. And somehow Pavlov has that feeling. But I feel like most online games, everyone's like, I don't want to hear everyone's bullshit and the kid listening to, Limp Bizkit too loud which I love Limp Bizkit, but it's like people listening to music that's crackling the microphone, or like a fan in the background constantly going, or kids crying and just like, this is a fucking mess.
People yelling. I don't know. Yeah. It's just, that's the biggest issue with online games.
Look Sean dead in his face.
Yeah.
Look Sean dead in the eyes and say, I played Destiny 2 for months.
Yeah, I did do that.
Like, I need this, bro.
See, but I'm gonna have to do that with Baldur's Gate. I'm saving my bullets for Baldur's Gate, even though I know he'll play it. I got to save my bullets for you.
That's true, but you got some bullets for him too.
I do. I got bullets for everybody. I write your name on these bullets.
Name on it.
I got his picture. But yeah, it's gonna be. I'm interested to try it. We'll see how long it lasts, but I'm looking forward to it.
All right, moving along. Next piece of news. Media Molecule's co-founder Mark Healy has announced that after 17 years with the company, he is leaving the studio. This comes off the heels of the studio announcing that they were ending support for Dreams in the form of updates, allowing the title to live on with its servers intact, like we talked about last week. Despite his leaving, it seems he isn't leaving the industry altogether, as he closes his announcement with, quote, "So here's to new beginnings, following one's heart and exploring the unknown." He added in conclusion, "I'm off on a pirate adventure, one that involves making games, that is." I wonder if that's a hint in any way, shape, form. Is he joining the Skull and Bones team?
Oh, see, I had a better prediction than that one. Rare.
Oh, yeah? That would actually be interesting, because I don't know, man. We have a question in response to this. So we'll go ahead and move on to it, because, I mean, the news is pretty cut and dry for what it is. Rude Days 93, one of our patrons, he says, "So Media Molecule isn't in the best of spots now. If you're Sony, what are you doing with them? Assuming shutting them down is out of the question, are you sending them back to Sackboy or possibly a new IP?" So, Chris, we kind of loosely talked about this last week with the what would they even think about closing them down. So this is looking more at the shutting them down is not on the table. What do you do with them?
I think you just look at them and go, make a goddamn game this time, and then you leave. Because honestly, if it was me, because of all the BAFTA stuff and all that, I would have just had a skeleton crew there and let them continue maintaining Dreams. Be like, we'll give you $1 million a year to pay yourselves and make this game. Go do that. Be in the corner. I'm glad that they're making another game, but if it was me, I would have just had them. You siphon some money out of there, invested at other places, and just been like, "You guys are the Dream Studio. Make a way that I can publish my games through Dreams." Like, that's one of the big things they didn't do. They didn't put it on PC, and then people who were making games in Dreams were just making games in Dreams. Like, why couldn't I submit my finished game to Sony and get it on the store? Get me a trophy list, you know? And then
long before you even joined the podcast, that was a thing that Saul and I were talking about, right? Is that I remember saying, like, when Dreams, before it even came out, my ideal version of Dreams included a way for people to download the Dreams player on PS4. And whenever you're done with your game, you can upload it to the Dreams player, and people who do not own Dreams can choose to download your game through the Dreams player and play it, or even buy it. My hope was that you can download anyone's creation within Dreams, but then whenever you reach a certain level, you submit it to Media Molecule with a price tag. Media Molecule and Sony take part of the money from that, and then they send the rest of it off to you. They start working towards building relationships with budding developers, getting them used to working with, the creative endeavors, and then maybe even use that to continue to boost the studio like they did with Little Big Planet. They, like Bethesda does with Skyrim modders and stuff. While also having a very cool customer focus, like community focused thing of like, hey, you can come and make games and make money. It may not be a ton, but your time can be rewarded with something. People can play it without owning the game. There's a marketplace here. There's a way to do this. And then if it expanded to PC or something else, it just continues to get even cooler. It's like, great, you can do something elsewhere. You can do something so much cooler. But I feel like, I don't know, because you weren't much of a Little Big Planet guy, right? Because you're not big on platformers.
I was not.
Okay. I love that game. That series is fantastic. Sackboy is fantastic. But here's the thing. That series has pretty much been taken over by
Sumo
Digital. And I don't necessarily know that giving it back to Media Molecule is going to do much. Mark Healy, who's leaving the studio, was the creative director on both Little Big Planet 1 and 2. So for any of the magic that they had, which they absolutely did, Sackboy is a mascot for PlayStation. It was a much bigger one during the PS3 era. I think where you get into is you look at a studio like Sucker Punch. Sucker Punch has been able to consistently make high-performing mascots and new IPs, basically, for PlayStation. Media Molecule started off great with Little Big Planet. And then every one that they've done since then has kind of just not hit the expectations anyone thought. Like, Tearaway is a fantastic game. Incredibly creative, really fun, beautiful. And I even think the ideas behind the game and the character Iota or Atois are really good, but it just didn't catch steam for whatever reason. Maybe it's because Sony was leaning so heavy into those third-person, adult-driven games that people weren't looking at Tearaway. Possibly it's because it was on Vita, but even when it hit PS4 years later, it wasn't really looked at in any strong way. I don't know what the answer is here, but I feel like it has to be new IP.
Well, the only reason I could see Little Big Planet going back to Media Molecule is that Sumo Digital is now owned by Tencent.
It's true, but Tencent has no reason to not want Sumo to make games for other people.
I'm not saying
Sumo's
that
entire thing, you know.
I'm saying maybe it's cheaper to just hand the reins back to first party studio than
possible
splitting the 70%, or I guess it's 100% because it's Sony, but splitting the money with Tencent.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
That's
think
fair.
Tencent would have a problem with them working on it.
No, I think that's a fair point. I think the question here comes down to, did he leave because he wanted to leave? Did he leave because he was kind of pushed out by Sony being like, hey, we appreciate what you've done for us, but your value to the company over the years has just slipped so much that we're just basically going to ask you to leave.
Yeah.
Like, we're not firing you so much as we're just like encouraging you out of the door.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, because I would imagine at a certain point too, it's also like you're killing the thing that I've wanted to work on, or you've been having me work on for the last 7 years. So I'm moving on now. What, maybe he didn't think Dreams was done and he's mad about it, or maybe he just doesn't want to he doesn't want to start fresh on his own thing. I don't know. There's tons of reasons. It could be any of them.
Of course. I think where I'd go is start using Media Molecule for the fact that they are a well-known and beloved creative industry, but not enough people know them by name. So start kind of working towards what you started doing with Pixel Opus, which we need to see more from them. But I think Pixel Opus give me Media Molecule vibes where it's like interesting gameplay mechanics with little cutesy stories that are kind of played into it. I think that Sony has a need for that amidst all of these very adult-driven games.
Mm-hmm.
You've just got to find a way to channel it, and also find a way to make sure that you're budgeting for it and setting sales expectations that are reasonable, and understanding that Media Molecule is not a very expensive studio to keep open. It's worth the good PR and the good general feel of having a studio that is putting out creative, interesting things. But as much as I think Dreams is a great idea, I do agree with you. I think their next game has to be a game.
Mm-hmm. And here's my other question. Do they need Sackboy when they have Astro? Who's just cooler Sackboy?
I think Sackboy's personally better. Partially because of the way that they go about having Sackboy work within all of the costumes. That doesn't really make as much sense for Astrobot.
Yeah, but they do it in the game.
Nah, kind of.
Almost
not to the same degree. Yes, I get where you're trying to say.
Background characters.
Yeah, I get what you're trying to say. And I think realistically, yes, Astrobot is trying to hit the same level. And Astrobot arguably may have been more successful more recently. I don't know. I don't know how well Sackboy performed. The A Big Adventure. Mm-hmm. So I can't say, what it is.
I mean, that it's hard to compare because Astro is if we're talking about success in terms of how many people played it, Astro wins no matter what. So
yeah, it's free included game, no matter what you do. Yeah, I would love to see them because now that you have a Vita, you probably aren't that interested in it, but it's a very interesting use of the Vita. And even though it's platforming, a lot of it's platforming that involves the Vita's very specific functions. If you ever just get a weird whim, you should try Tearaway. It's a really creative game.
I've always meant to play it.
It's worth seeing what some cool ideas can come from. But I think that Dreams is always too, like, it's a great idea, but if you're not going to move it and do something more interesting with it, like put it on PC and open it to a bigger fan base and let it be something that could maybe one day push you to the point of being like what Fortnite's doing right now, then okay, fine, move on. Your next game's got to be a real game that people can talk about and start being like, this is Sony's Nintendo-like quality. So like the Astrobot developer, Media Molecule, and Pixel Opus can be like their trinity of developers that make very artsy, fun, beloved games with unique, weird ideas and twists. And they're all relatively small. They're all relatively cheap to give games to. And you don't worry about them being massively successful. You worry about them breaking even and making maybe a little bit of profit. And you just let them be good PR use for you.
Yeah,
because at the end of the day,
Tokyo RPG Factory, kind of like them.
Yeah, well, for what, like, those games don't sell crazy for Nintendo.
No, they don't.
But they do a great job of keeping the way that, but they make games almost exclusively for Nintendo.
Tokyo RPG Factory?
Yeah.
No,
I'm thinking of the right one, right? Like I am
Setsuna. Those are all on PlayStation.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
I know I Am Setsuna is, but I feel like, didn't they make some of the... Now you got me questioning myself. They made that Sphere game, something Sphere.
Odin Sphere? Lift Risers? That's on PlayStation.
No, it's not that. Now you got me questioning myself. Tokyo RPG Factory. I knew they did I Am Setsuna. Lost Sphere, and then Ononaki.
Those are all
Ononaki's on PlayStation. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, but either way, there is just a simple studio that gets something and it acts as like hey, this is a good use of our money just to make sure that people have a certain feeling about us, which Square benefits from that, right? Kind of like regardless of how well Octopath does, at the end of the day, games like Octopath and Triangle Strategy, as long as they're doing well enough to make a little bit of money, they help keep the idea of Square Enix's past alive, which is good for PR. Even though you want your Final Fantasy 16 to be the thing that catches the world on fire. Like, you don't want any of your games to do bad, and Sony doesn't want any of their games to do bad either. But it's like, for all of your Aloys and Jin Sakai's and all that stuff, have a Sackboy and an Astrobot, and have a couple of not so crazy ones. Like, forever, it never really just hit and worked right. But Knack 2 is such a phenomenal game that's the idea. I'm telling you, Knack 2 is a phenomenal game.
It sounds like you're memeing, so blame the memes.
Every fiber of Knack 1 is a completely fine, mediocre in the true sense of the word game. Like, I liked it enough. It was fun. I played it, enjoyed it, never bothered platinuming it. Knack 2 is so much better in every regard. The writing is impeccable. The gameplay, so much better. The story is surprisingly mature. Like, man, I need you to trust me on this.
If you play Baldur's Gate 3 with me, I will play Knack.
I don't think you'll like Knack because it is still a platforming game. But just throwing that out there, I'll play Baldur's Gate with you.
I just want
Knack 2 is co-op.
Oh no, are we going?
I've already got the platinum, baby.
Oh God, he's all.
I've had it out since the game came out. Yeah, Knack 2, baby.
Knack Attack.
Mm-hmm. Knack 2, the Knackening. That's always what I wanted it to be called.
I hate that.
It's okay.
Continue on, my wayward son.
Continue on. All right. Speaking of Suicide Squad, rumors have swirled around the release of the game, but nothing official had been said by the studio or publisher until now. We've been talking about this for a bit. Rocksteady announced in a JPEG on Twitter, that's true, that the game would need more time to cook and will now release, to my chagrin, February 2nd, 2024. So as you may remember, that was one of the titles I chose for the Metacritic draft. And all year it has been hitting me as a bad choice, even if it did hit this year. But a game in the 60s and 70s is better than a 0, which is what happens when a game just moves completely out of this year.
Yes, it is.
So unfortunately, I am now no longer in first place in this competition.
No. Is this a good time for a Metacritic draft update?
Yeah, quickly. You go ahead.
Chris is in the lead with 69 points, and Brett is now behind with 62.
It's not as detrimental of a drop as it could have been. It's only 8 points or 9 points. I think it was 71.
You were at 71.
It's enough.
It's a big drop. Yeah, it's bad. This is a bad choice. But listen, it happens. Because guess what, Brett? I'm about to pick a game that might put me in a bad position too.
I'm curious as to what it is because I've been debating a game, but I want to hear what yours is before I'm not going to say anything until I know for sure.
Well, I think I'm going to risk it for the biscuit, and I'm putting Alan Wake 2 on my list.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. That's exactly what I was thinking about.
I got some faith. If you want, I'm willing to let you have it. It's a risky pick. If you really want it.
It's okay. Like I said, I've been debating it. I hadn't decided yet.
So if anyone is curious, that would be my second added pick, which means I have one more. Brett's has 2. As he took Phantom Liberty.
That's right. I think that was a smart choice. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Phantom Liberty?
I think Cyberpunk has had Cyberpunk. I think Alan Wake is I think Alan Wake will do well enough if it releases this year. I don't think it'll be a detriment to you.
No, I don't.
They keep insisting, as we're going to talk about, but I don't know.
I'm iffy on it, but I want it in case it does well.
This seems like a game that, like a month before release, they're gonna be like, to get the best product, we had to move it to January.
It's now coming the 3rd of January. Yeah, I do, but I don't want to miss it if it does come out. And I have,
I think that's fair.
I have some 0 buffer room on you right now, so.
You do. But yeah, I think Phantom Liberty is a smart choice. I think Cyberpunk went through its redemption arc, and I think it's ready to get to love. And then this is something that's been developed from the ground up, knowing that these limitations aren't there. They're not having to account for last gen systems. They kind of know what people did and didn't like about Cyberpunk's base game. So they've been able to really tailor this toward that. I think this will get that. Maybe not quite as strong because it's not riding the same high as The Witcher had throughout the entire run. But I think this will get pretty close to the Blood and Wine levels of love. So, and Heart of Stone, the 2 Witcher DLCs. Yeah. Which are quite beloved DLCs.
Oh, yeah. No, I have full confidence it'll be good. So. Yeah.
I'm very excited for it. And, I'm not normally one for DLC, but Cyberpunk is so good. And because of the fact that as much as I love Cyberpunk, I was still disappointed with the issues it had. I'm ready to go in and play something that's Cyberpunk that's unfamiliar to me a little bit because it's going to be new content and probably new mechanics without any of the bad parts that I had to deal with. Like, I don't know. I don't know how bad Cyberpunk is on PS5. I still haven't played it at all on PS5. I'm still talking. All of my thoughts are from launch. We're playing it on PS5 at launch.
80 crashes.
Which we have PTSD for. Yeah.
I do want to do
There's a reason I didn't go for platinum.
Yeah. Yeah, because if you're like me, you'd have to play it twice.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, I'll have to play it a second time anyway. So
I'm having a hard time playing it a third time. Third time. I want to, but that sounds like a lot. So we'll see.
I get it. Let's see. Next thing up, April's PlayStation Plus games have been announced. So these are the classic titles and just general titles. So what we have here is PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium tiers. So we're looking at that. Of course, we already know the month's essential games. The Extra and Premium tiers will be getting Kena, Bridge of Spirits, Doom Eternal, Riders Republic, Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus, Slay the Spire, Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom, The Evil Within, Wolfenstein The Old Blood, Bassmaster Fishing, Paradise Killer, Sackboy: A Big Adventure. A really solid list of games, both first and third party, and second party to that extent, considering Kena and Sackboy in some capacity. PlayStation Plus Premium is getting Doom 2, Doom 64, Doom 3, and Dishonored Definitive Edition. I don't understand why Bethesda has seemed to give way more stuff to PS Plus since they've been bought out from Microsoft.
Yeah, it's odd.
But this is your time to play Dishonored Definitive Edition, which has all the DLC, The Witches of Brigmore, The Knife of Dunwall, the base game. It is such a great game. Then immediately hop into Dishonored 2 because it's even better.
Yeah, Brett's 100% right. It is such a game.
It is such a game. Dishonored's great. You don't listen to Chris. Chris is what we call a hater.
I mean, Chris has been proven right by developers in this very episode, so.
All right. No, solid month. I think that's a good month for that. Even if a lot of the games I already have and see, but I always have that like secondhand excitement of like, even if I already have the game, knowing that a lot more people will be able to try some of these games without the monetary risk involved is like, fuck yeah. Maybe more people will play Dishonored right now. Maybe more people will give Kena a try because Kena is a really phenomenal awesome game. It is really good. It's a lot more difficult than you would think for the type of game that it is. Has a crazy difficulty spike, but it's really fun.
It's very much a don't judge a book by its anime cover.
100%. This looks like a game that would be for kids. And if a kid tried playing this, good fucking luck, guy. You're going to get to like that second boss fight and be like, what?
Yeah. I'm sorry.
The last game I played was the final boss fight. And you were like, nah, bro, what? Oh, dude, that game has genuinely, like, the final boss fight is...
It's quite good. Rough. All right, I actually
it's really
I don't know
cool
what it's
fight,
like,
but it's very hard. This is an interesting one. Speaking of PS Plus, Marvel's Spider-Man, which has been available on the service since its relaunch into a tiered service, is leaving the extra and premium tiers along with other third-party titles. While a revolving game list was to be expected, Spider-Man leaving has some wondering if this will become normal for first-party games or if this is somehow in relation to a licensing issue, similar to like what we just saw with Quantum Break leaving Game Pass. Microsoft ended up confirming that it was due to a licensing issue. There's some licensed music in that game, and that they are working to resolve that and get it back on the service. Sony's been pretty mum on this, and I get where it's coming from. Your questions come to Spider-Man being an issue with licensing issues potentially, where you have to worry like, okay, is there some licensing thing that comes into play and all the Spider-Man games Sony's making will kind of have trouble throughout the next couple of years, where Sony has to consistently worry about whether or not they want to renew the license and if it's worth the money, and what does that mean for the preservation of this if you want to play these games down the line? It's a great question. But the flip thing I'm seeing of this is a really good question of people wondering if this is leaving PS Plus because Spider-Man 2 and its upcoming marketing campaign is going to drive a lot of people who may not have gotten around to Spider-Man 1 yet into buying Spider-Man. So you don't want it on your subscription service because there's a higher chance that you may just outright buy it, which is ultimately better for Sony. Chris, what are your thoughts? Do you think that this is some kind of weird, shady choice? And shady's not even the right thing. Like, they're a business. At the end of the day, if their plan is, hey, occasionally there'll be a moment to where pulling a game off of it to get sales will be sensible and better for our bottom line. Do you think that that's shady and a bad move? Or do you think this is just licensing? And if it is something that you think is not licensing, do you think that this is a precedent we can see with future titles, like maybe if a Horizon 3 or a Ghost of Tsushima 2 down the line comes in with a strong trailer showing that they pull the other titles temporarily to try and boost sales?
I certainly don't think it's shady. They don't have to keep anything up there. And they've already said first party titles aren't a promise to the service, right?
Yeah.
No, it wouldn't surprise me if the rationale behind this is, yeah, it's been on there for 6 months. We're taking it away now. Like, if you wanted to play it for free, you have your chance. Now you can buy it. Like that seems kind of like exactly what I would think makes sense to do with it. So, or they're about to show trailers at this June PlayStation event, and they're going to put it on, I don't know, Essential. Like, I feel like gamers are going straight to the negative when they could just be about to give it for free to everyone in a couple months.
While possible, it does seem unlikely, if I'm being honest. You're right. It's a possibility. But Spider-Man is a licensed game, very popular for them, sells really well, one of the best-selling PS4 games out. And Miles Morales is one of the best-selling PS5 games. I don't necessarily know that it makes sense for them to be like, hey, we're just going to give it to you for free. When we all realistically know people who are just now getting PS5s who have been wanting one, as we saw Europe right now as for Q1 has like a 396% increase in PS5 hardware sales. The month of March alone is like a 400% increase, while both Nintendo Switch and Xbox Series consoles are both on a downward trajectory year over date. Year over year. Part of me thinks that this is realistically, and I agree, it may be unfortunate, but at the end of the day, I kind of understand where Sony's coming from, because we see games and you have that question that's been happening. Like Ghostwire Tokyo hit Game Pass, and not only do they not really fix any of the issues the PS5 version did have, which are not myriad necessarily, but they're not great. Great game, though. Great game. But the Xbox version not only didn't fix any of that, it also runs worse and has lower ray tracing resolution and a bunch of things for a game that had an extra year in the oven for the system it was coming out on. It didn't get a physical release on Xbox, and I think a lot of people are just have the problem with a subscription service like this is it leaves the door open for the lingering question always in your mind is this a result of not having to worry about it and the quality of first-party games going down because of the incentive that Game Pass gives to be, well, people are going to be able to play it anyway, and they're going to play it because it's already included in their thing. So I've heard some naysaying going on around that. But if Sony's answer is like, we're going to put games on when it makes sense to be on there from a first-party perspective, but if we think we can make even more money from a sales boom that comes from something, yeah, we're going to go ahead and do that. Part of me wonders if it's because of Spider-Verse.
Yeah,
because Spider-Verse is is in June 2nd.
Yeah, I believe June.
All right,
I'll
so
check.
the game's leaving a month before June, pretty much. This makes, if I'm being dead honest, this makes perfect sense. People see Spider-Verse, which we've already seen that there's a cameo of PS4 Spider-Man in there. Spider-Man's riding high. And what is the one thing that Cyberpunk's Edge Runner anime, The Witcher TV show, The Last of Us, what are all of the through lines that we've seen? When these come out and they start to get into the eyes of new people, the sales of all of these see a big spike. Cyberpunk Edge Runners got the Cyberpunk game back to like Steam's top played games for a while.
Yeah, it's true.
But The Witcher, the Witcher game, Witcher 3, saw a huge sale increase after the Netflix Witcher series.
Mm-hmm.
The Last of Us, we already talked about, like a 400% something sales increase.
Like 383, I think it was.
Yeah, it's like, point being is, I don't see why any company who's paying attention to the way the market reacts would not do this. Even if it's unfortunate, even if your hope was, well, these games would be on here in perpetuity. I understand why you feel that way, partly because of the precedent that Game Pass is mostly set. But at the end of the day, one thing we have to continue to remember is that Sony is a company who's going to do what's best for the company, and what's best for the company is to remove a game right before a big multimedia release of something involving that property so that you can see the same sales spike. I would not be surprised if next month or in June we're reporting about a huge sales spike in Spider-Man. Because I'm assuming what's going to happen is Spider-Verse is going to come out, riding high on that. People are going to be picking up Spider-Man already, and then they're going to drop a fire Spider-Man 2 commercial sometime during the Summer Game Fest week of where they're doing all that. And then people are going to be even more hyped and pre-ordering Spider-Man 2 like crazy and buying Spider-Man and Miles Morales, just licking it up. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong at all. It just also wouldn't shock me even if right now sales it was a sales thing. If by the time Spider-Man 2 is coming out in September, by August, it's Spider-Man and Miles Morales are free, or Spider-Man and just Spider-Man.
To give your essential theory some credit, one way that you could do this is have it be where Spider-Man is free as an essential game, the Spider-Man Game of the Year or whatever, the remastered version. Give it for free as part of PS Plus Essential, and then have it to where that's a push for Miles Morales sales, because Spider-Man PS4 already saw a huge sales boost, and then just have it to be like, hey, you buy this, you get hooked in the store, you want to play Miles Morales before 2 because we know that Miles plays a big part in 2, so we give this one game away to hopefully drive an even higher spike in sales for Spider-Man Miles Morales. It's possible, but I don't think I think at the end of the day, anything Spider-Man related that's on a subscription service makes most sense to just pull it and say, let's see all of these things raising sales. Because if you remember, The Last of Us Remastered, The Last of Us Part 1 Remake, and The Last of Us 2 all saw sales spikes.
They did. Huge. I think the biggest argument I could see for Spider-Man being on the free service is they're already giving it out for free with Miles Morales Deluxe Edition. So it wouldn't be that much of a stretch to be like, yeah, here's the PS5 version of Spider-Man. You all own it.
It's not free. It's $20 more.
Sure. But it comes for free with the deluxe edition of Spider-Man Miles Morales.
I mean, but it's not free. You pay $20 more than... I get where you're coming from, but it's already at a discount.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
What I'm saying is you have to buy a different game to get it. Whether you have to pay for it or not is another question.
You're right.
And so I think that's why, like, it's definitely something I could see them giving away for free. Just, my personal take on it.
Yeah, for sure. Moving on to the next thing here, we got Final Fantasy XVI enjoyed quite the online boost as PlayStation's recent state of play seems to have made some new fans for the game, amassing an impressive 1.1 million views on just the 4K re-upload after state of play. So this was a separate one they did, and that is in 5 days. I have seen, now this is of course anecdotal, but I have seen far more people talking very positively about the game after the state of play, whereas before there was a little bit more mixture in the way people thought about it, and people felt about it, and people felt about the way it was being shown, kind of like that weird thing where there was a Twitter thing of just watching Clive walk up to like a squeeze through and then squeeze through, and that was the entire gameplay. It's like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah. So
I don't know. People seem to be very hyped.
I'll give my full disclosure. I think I can speak for you. I didn't watch this. I've said it, with Resident Evil before, like, I don't need to watch something on a game I'm already going to play, and I don't want to get spoiled. So yeah, I didn't check this out, but everything I've heard, people on the fence are no longer on the fence, and people who were hyped and watched it are more hyped. So I think it's going to turn out pretty goddamn well.
Yeah, all positives. I, too, have not seen it. I've seen very short clips while scrolling through my timeline of, like, Clive running up the arm of one of the icons I'm imagining. I chose, again, not to watch it myself because I've known since, like, the second trailer that they put out that I was going to get it. It looks amazing. It looks incredible. I have no reason to want to see more because, much like Chris, it's kind of like the difference here is that I was actually talking in the Discord, which you can always join. It's in the description below, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on podcast services. But I was talking about how a game like Forspoken actually benefited from being shown to me, for me personally. So this isn't... So for me, I remember that Forspoken, when it was Project Athia, was like, okay, this is cool, but it could just be vaporware. This could be the next Deep Down, right? This could be the next, we're going to show you a crazy PlayStation exclusive that's never going to come out, which we have a long list of. Agent, Wild from Michael Ansel, Deep Down, like we talked about. I don't know if you guys remember the PS3 Vita crossplay cross progression game that was supposed to come out that was called Ruin and then changed its name to Warrior's Lair before being canceled. It was like a Diablo style dungeon crawler. There's a mountain of these games. So that was kind of like, okay. And then they showed it again, and I was like, who knows? It could be, it could not be. I wasn't a huge fan of Final Fantasy 15, but I also didn't hate it. it wasn't until they showed gameplay that I was into it. And then I stopped looking at really anything else until people started trashing all over very small dialogue sections. And I just listened out of curiosity and was like, that doesn't sound that bad to me personally. I've heard worse in games for sure, like recent games. So in that case, it helped. But I think when I already know that I want to buy a game, I don't need, like, from the moment I knew I was going to buy Forspoken, I stopped looking at any new Forspoken stuff because I was like, okay, I know I want it. That's really all I needed to know. I played the demo. Great. I'm good. I don't need anything else. The demo showed me that bare minimum, I'll have fun. And Final Fantasy 16 is the same thing where I'm not even going to play the demo because I already know I want it. I'm just going to wait until the game comes out. They've already talked about a demo coming, but I don't see the value. So this is cool, but I also didn't choose to watch it and will not watch it. But I'm glad everyone's so hyped on it. It's great seeing it's great, but also kind of interesting being the odd one out and seeing people talk so highly about it, but having no clue as to what it was that's pushed them over the edge. But it's not too bad.
No, absolutely not.
Okay, we got a couple more things here. Mergers and acquisitions in the game industry are continuing, but this time neither Sony nor Microsoft are the culprit, not even that little grubby-handed Tencent. This time it's Sega, who is acquiring Rovio. I know that everyone thought that Microsoft was going to acquire Sega, but Sega's out there in the waters with its shark fins up itself. So Rovio is mostly known as the mobile developer responsible for the Angry Birds franchise. The bid price was about $775 million. Rovio pulls in around $300 million per year, which appears to be a good call for the Jet Set Radio publisher, as it will not take long to basically recoup this, and gives them a very strong position in the mobile market. Much like Microsoft's talking about, the primary driving factor for Microsoft wanting to go toward Activision Blizzard King is the King element in the mobile division. I don't have a whole lot to say about this other than this makes sense because if you think about it, even prior to a lot of the bigger studio acquisitions we're seeing from console devs and console publishers, we've seen Take-Two buy Zynga. We've seen Activision trying to be bought up, and apparently with King being part of it, we're seeing Sega go after this. People are just realizing that there's a very big market with mobile that they've had a hard time breaking into themselves. Easiest way is just to buy people who are already successful.
Yeah, I think that this is a good deal for them. It will not affect me in the slightest, but I am certainly interested to see if we get Sonic in the Angry Birds games or, Joker in the next Angry Birds movie or something along these lines.
Maybe an Angry Bird cameo in the next Sonic movie.
That would be dope. You got Shadow riding in on an Angry Bird.
Busting through like the dimensional barrier.
Yeah. Jim Carrey's Eggman pulling the slingshot and firing them away.
Sonic being in the Angry Birds game, which I assume is still being made. I didn't know that it was. But dude, Sonic being in Angry Birds makes total, instead of you flinging one of the birds, it's just Sonic and his spinball setup. And you just,
I would like that.
That makes total sense.
It does. It works very well.
Be great. Yeah. So, I mean, you're not telling me anything crazy, but as someone who doesn't really play mobile games, A, this doesn't impact me, but B, this doesn't impact anyone because Sega's not buying Rovio to somehow limit what they can be on. Sega's buying Rovio just as a way to be like, we can afford to buy them out and then continue for year after year after year to bring in this guaranteed money.
Yeah. Give me my millions. I don't know. I wonder how many of these M&A acquisitions are going to be strictly for the money. A lot of people are like, oh, Sony buys Square Enix and make everything, exclusive. It's like, what if they just buy Square Enix and go, just do what you're doing? The money's just going to SIE instead of you. Like, why not?
Why do you think that when they bought Bungie, they did not fight back about exclusivity?
Probably because it would have cost $2 billion more. But
well, dude, just across the board, it would have probably cost more to try and strong arm them against it. You would have had people who weren't happy with that decision to begin with. So then you're buying a studio that you forced your will upon, which means you have a bad relationship with a lot of the people at that studio. And instead, Sony goes, no. We're going to buy you. We're going to give you extra money to pay your people as an incentive to stay that are going to pay out over time. We want you for who you are, the dev you are, and the expertise that you have. And we want the money that you clearly bring in from Destiny 2 and potential future products. And you'll have more secured funding than you had as an independent studio.
Yeah. Exactly.
That only stands to help literally every person involved in Destiny 2 and Bungie and everyone who's playing those games. I've long said, and I still firmly believe this, whether or not it's what ends up happening, the most obvious move for anyone in the grand scheme of things, definitely a company like Microsoft that already wants to be as universal as possible by putting their games on as many things as possible through streaming and whatnot. There is no way from a business perspective that you can convince me that having the Elder Scrolls 6 be exclusive is
good for you.
is the best business move from a sheer monetary standpoint.
Yeah, it's not.
Now you can give up some of the monetary standpoint to give you better footing in your budding subscription service, and the trade-off is just there, and you want it bad enough that you're willing to do it, and you're a multi-trillion-dollar company like Microsoft is, who can afford the blow. But the reality is if you go pure money based, like if Sony bought Bethesda, I have a feeling that they would at that point just be like, yeah, just put it on everything. Instead, Sony was like, hey, what if we just pay you a pretty big chunk of money that's significantly less than buying you for you to just put Starfield exclusively on us for a year?
Yeah. And I think that's
then maybe the same with Elder Scrolls 6, you know?
Yeah. But we become the home of Bethesda, but it goes on everything later. I don't know. I just think it would be super interesting to see, like, hey, we're buying Take-Two, but we're not touching them. We just want that Rockstar money.
Is that really a bad idea? Like, if we're being dead honest, buying Take-Two just to get Rockstar and the shark card money,
it's worth it. Even if it's $10 billion, you get that back. Jesus Christ, you get that back times $1 billion once GTA 6 comes out. But you definitely make your money back immediately. Like, it's worth it.
That's the thing is, I don't even know. This feels like a dumb thing to say because there's always a reality. There's always a chance. But it feels like it's going to be so insurmountably hard to fumble Grand Theft Auto 6 just because of the machine that Grand Theft Auto has become.
Yeah.
That it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy that 6 is just going to be massive.
Absolutely.
And whatever happens with Grand Theft Auto Online on that is going to be massive. And yes, there will be people who complain after a little bit about how Rockstar is starting to lean too hard into people who want to buy stuff. And that's the reality, is that eventually they stop worrying about the core gamer who's already enjoyed what they're going to enjoy and move on anyway. And they go, what we want is the casual people who want us to constantly add these new crazy things in shark card. And that's just what it is.
Yeah. That's all they need.
It sucks for me because I don't care for that type of gaming, but it clearly works in the market.
Yeah. And that's what it's about. Make the most money. Buy Take-Two, leave them alone.
Make the most money. Alan Wake 2, now under Chris's little wing, nursing and hoping to break out before the end of 2023, is still on track to release in 2023, according to its developer Remedy. While revealing a new logo for the company, they teased Alan Wake 2 this year and several other Remedy projects in the coming years. If you remember, they had some different deals they made with some people. So Remedy's doing well, despite the fact that Crossfire X seemed to not be necessarily a big hit. Control also didn't. Remedy is a surprisingly resilient company. It's like they have a series of games that just never really performed as well as they should have, and yet they stay around. Quantum Break didn't really perform as well as it was supposed to. Great game. Fantastic. So it's like they keep getting opportunities to work on. Control apparently didn't sell as well as they really needed it to, but it sold well enough and continues to sell, so it kind of works and they can build their future around that. They bought back Alan Wake's rights from Microsoft, and they're just going through, like, someone over there is just really good at managing, because somehow, even though they never hit targets for anything, they're not meeting Square Enix's Western Studios fates.
Well, I think it's because they're still independent.
Yeah, which, there was that point in time where people were wondering, because Shuhei went and visited Remedy and posted pictures, and people were like, could this be indicative of Sony buying Remedy? And if Remedy had to get bought, I'll be honest, I think Sony would be the ideal place of all of the places that I think would have the capital and want to buy them. I don't want to see the AA area that Nordic Games, THQ Nordic and whatnot, are at. I don't really want to see that. I don't think Microsoft has proven themselves, as much as people are going to get mad at that. I think Microsoft still have to prove themselves as capable of handling and managing first-party studios better than they've seemingly been able to. And Sony's one of the only studios or publishers out there that we know that gives a very large degree of creative freedom. And I think Remedy excels best when they have creative freedom. So, if they have to be bought by somebody, Sony would be a cool choice. What do you think?
I mean, I think Sony should buy them, but I think they just have so many games in the hopper right now that it wouldn't necessarily even make sense at the current moment. They got their Rockstar contract, and I think they're making a game with NetEase or something like that. And
sure,
Alan Wake 2, Control 2. So they got a lot of stuff going on for other people. So it would be, let's say minimum of 4 years until they even start looking at a game exclusively for PlayStation.
Yeah, I don't know. It is weird that as a studio, they've released in the type of games that they make, they've released an exclusive for Microsoft and not for PlayStation.
Yeah.
You would have thought from the type of games that each, company is more known for, that Remedy would be in line with PlayStation. But in a weird way, maybe that was a good choice, because there's not really anything else like Quantum Break on Xbox, but there's plenty that's not that different from Quantum Break, stylistically and marketing wise, how you'd go about marketing it. PlayStation's full of that.
Yeah, it is. It's a third person over the shoulder game in the end.
Yeah.
As we said,
we'll see. You might get lucky. It may hit.
Can break down. I hope it does.
Yeah, as we said last week, Alan Wake 2 is Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
Right. There's no difference whatsoever, actually. You like Resident Evil 4? Great. You'll love Alan Wake.
You like Resident Evil 4? You'll love this one camera in Gran Turismo. You like first-person shooters? Cockpit view, Gran Turismo. You've got it.
Yeah, there you go. Work. You're shooting the gas.
Look, it's a first-person viewpoint where you pull the trigger to go.
It's perfect. That's exactly
to progress the game. You pull the trigger to progress the game. I've just made Gran Turismo 7 and Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 the same game.
Now cross them over.
Soap driving in a Ferrari.
It's like you get to pick characters with Makarov. You're not allowed to pick a Russian car.
They introduced the Need for Speed style mechanic of shit talking. So it's like you're playing as Soap and Captain Price is over there. It's like, listen here. You're like, oh, yes, okay.
Makarov gets in his Honda Civic and he's like, remember, no Russian. And then it just keeps going. I would play that game. I would play the shit out of that game. Oh, man. The numbers, Mason. Look at your rev numbers.
Oh, man. So let's see. I think that's the end of our news. We got a couple of questions, and then we're going to go into the Velvet's Corner, which is always how we'll end the show. So first question is more of a remark. I just didn't know where else to put it. Sweet Gran Turismo Jones said, as an aside from last week's DLC topic, I think my top 3 DLC expansions would be Undead Nightmare, Ballad of Gay Tony, and Iceborne, if you consider that DLC. And Iceborne is Monster Hunter World. And that's kind of weird because it's completely standalone. You can play it separate. I think it's DLC, but I don't know if it's actually considered.
I think
DLC.
We talked about First Light last week, so I don't see why this would be any different.
I'd consider it the same. Even though First Light is a game that it's really just a small game that you can play and having, I guess the difference is Burning Shores is coming out for Horizon, and its trophy list and everything is just under Forbidden West. You have to have Forbidden West to play it. You have to open Forbidden West to play it. And the difference for a game like First Light and Iceborne is that you can just open them and play them, as far as I'm aware. I didn't play Iceborne at all, so if I'm lying on accident, please let me know. But yeah, as far as I can tell, it was a completely separate game, completely separate disc. Your character carried over and everything, but you could play it without World. And it had a separate platinum, I think. Actually, maybe it didn't.
I don't think so. I think it was just added.
I want to find, I'm going to look real quick. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. Monster Hunter World, Iceborne, Trophy Guide, and Roadmap. Yes, it does have a platinum. That's actually a little interesting.
No shit. I didn't realize. That's cool. Good to know.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Well, Ryan, you were talking about how easily you got Monster Hunter World's platinum. Now you got to get Iceborne's platinum. Then you can come talk to me. Till then, I don't want to hear from you. Okay, our other question that we still had that we didn't get to, of course, we get to these right at the end. B-Raj88, one of our patrons, longtime listeners. Hope you're doing well, buddy. Let us know what PS3 games you've been playing. I know you've been playing them. I've been waiting to go back to mine. I'll do it soon. I've just been in love with the Vita. Don't ask me. It's where we are. He says you were teleported into a game of your choice for a month. If you die in the game, you die in real life, but whatever you collect in the game, you can keep in real life. Skills, magic, items, pets, clothes. What game do you pick?
Grand Theft Auto.
See, I find it interesting that you immediately went with a game where you have a high chance of being murdered.
I don't, though. I don't have a high chance.
Expound on this.
Murdered. Right. I'm thinking of it this way, right? Grand Theft Auto, for all the stuff that we talk about these characters, they aren't murderers in the same way that I am in the game, right? Michael in his day-to-day is not getting a 6-star wanted level and seeing how long he can last. Trevor, sure, but I'm not living in that fucking desert. So,
and Franklin, maybe.
Well, Franklin's just in gangs. Gang violence exists in the real world. I don't think,
and it usually brings a wanted level.
Sure, but I don't think day-to-day life in San Andreas is any different than day-to-day life in current present-day America. Arguably, the healthcare is better. So,
because if you die, you're just right back. Right. You're good.
So that's the thing. But not
right? in this when you die, you're dead.
Yeah. So just think about it. You go into GTA, you can make millions of dollars very easily because people just drop bricks on the street. And I don't think there's much reason to think you'll die. Right? You're going in there, living a regular life, and you can come out. If you start to engage in it, if you're out here I'm in GTA, I'm going to get a 6-star wanted level and see how long I can last, you may pass away. But if you go into the Grand Theft Auto universe and just exist, I think you're golden.
I think the interesting thing here is it doesn't give you a time limit. So how long are you in here? Do you have to beat the game? Is that what it does? And then if you have to beat the game, how easy is it to die in the missions in Grand Theft Auto? We're talking about 5, so let's talk about 5. You've mentioned characters from 5. This is where it gets weird. At what point are you done?
I don't know.
At what point do you go back to the real world to enjoy the splendor of the skills, magic items, pets, clothes, etc. that you got to keep? That's the real hard part. It almost sounds like this is a trick question where you're basically just telling me that you're getting transported into a game and you'll never get out.
Mario Kart would be a good one. You just get the race.
See, my immediate thing was, what games do I enjoy that would have cool stuff that I would like to bring back over from like a power or skill standpoint, that you have one of the lowest chances of dying in general in. And I landed on, ironically, because I was just playing it, 2008 Prince of Persia, because one of the big controversies for the game that people had is that they didn't want the game to constantly feel like it was getting in its own way and getting frustrated because you had to redo stuff. So when you're platforming and everything, you can't die. If you fuck up the platforming and you go to fall, Elika will just swoop down, save you, pull you up. No matter what, it's endless. It's just endless. So part of me thinks like that would be cool, because if I get the skills of the prince, I can like run on walls, and I get that fucking sick looking metal claw hand that he has that he uses to like slide down stuff. That's fucking awesome. And depending on if I get any of the benefits that you get from playing with Elika, I could have a potentially badass skill set, really cool items that would be cool just to have. And then in the future, if I ever like needed to get away from somebody doing something crazy, I could like wall run and shit. I basically get Titanfall powers without having to worry about the potential death scenarios of Titanfall.
Like a Titan falling on your head.
Exactly. Great way to kill an enemy in that game too.
Incredible.
Super cool. So yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go with 2008 Prince of Persia. It's got the right level of cool stuff and flair to it, and he has that really fucking cool sword. But it has close to the littlest amount of risk you can get. Because like you could also do a game like Stardew Valley. As far as I'm aware, you can't die in Stardew Valley.
You could.
The only difference is that but you can't die.
True.
It's like Pokemon. You can't die in Pokemon.
Yeah.
Your Pokemon just black out. You know what I mean?
Or white
now,
out.
I want the sadistic guy who's like Manhunt. What would you even want? That's the question. Depending on your answer, I was like, what do you want to get from this? Stardew, yeah, I would be curious because I haven't played Stardew. I've been debating doing it on Vita because it's a shared trophy list.
Yeah.
And because of that, I can platinum it on Vita because the game doesn't have most of the newer updates. So every time they update the game, it gets harder to platinum. But the Vita didn't have that problem.
I think you'd want to take all their money away, right? You'd be able to take all your money. Maybe I would come out of there with farming skills, so I would take all my utensils. Utensils doesn't seem like the right word, but that's okay. My implements.
Utensils? I mean, yeah. Your implements?
Yeah.
That sounds wrong.
Yeah, it does.
You're probably,
yeah. So I think that's what I would take is those two things. My cash, if I was going to Stardew, cash, and the other word I said that I forgot now.
Implements?
Yes, my implements.
Utensils?
Yeah, because I like upgrade them all to iridium, and then I've got this like insane stuff I can use at home to make a great what's the word I'm looking for? Of a great farm in my house. Easy stuff.
It's a hard question because it's always about the risk reward factor of like what's the cool shit you can get from a game. Because like, dude, Terraria is high on my list of stuff I would want from within the game. Low on my list of not dying. Like, I don't think that I would get out of Terraria without dying at all. There's some pretty hardcore stuff.
Brett, I gotta use the bathroom quick, so I'll be right back.
Yeah, go ahead. All right. While Chris takes a poopsie, I'm gonna give the setup for sexy time. You know what? I'm gonna wait. I don't want to have Chris miss out on the sexy time. To let everyone know, we're of course wrapping up on the show, so we're gonna move into Velvet's Corner, which we will do officially in just a second. But yeah, B-Raj, great question. I really like it. I'd be curious to hear what yours is. I know that you said you were too lazy, so you just screenshotted it from something you saw on TikTok. But yeah, that might be what we do as the community's take. I think that one could be fun. So yeah, community's take this week. If you're teleported into a game, oh, you did say a time limit. I'm sorry, I'm over here talking out of my ass. Yeah, so into a game of choice for a month. So if you die in the game, you die in real life, but whatever you collect in the game, you keep in real life. Skills, magic item, pets, clothes. What game do you pick? B-Rod, you better give me an answer so I can give yours first and foremost. We like doing those when we get these community-inspired answers. But with that said, I want to re-ask, because I saw a couple people throw out there, I'm playing older games, so I think first and foremost, if there's any gems on the Vita that you're aware of that I may have missed that you've never heard me talk about, throw them my way, first and foremost. Even if it's games that are more gameplay driven, I like having something I can play while I'm also like talking to my wife and kid, and I can easily put it down and pick it back up without having to worry about story investment. But also, if there's any DLC that you think I should absolutely 100% play, throw it my way. I'd be definitely curious to see where you end up going and what games I may have missed out on. And I'm curious to see how many people jump into Burning Shores, because I'm always curious to see what the actual response to DLC is. I was talking the other day that I feel like DLC that requires the game must not sell very well. I think we may have been on this on the show, but I'd be curious to see if that's proven wrong or what the real benefit is, and if Burning Shores proves to be a strong example of that. If Chris doesn't hurry up, though, I'm going to have to go into the Velvet Corner without him. But, I don't know what he has. I mean, I could always cut this, but what would the fun be in that? Oh,
There'd
look,
be no
Chris
fun
comes
in
back in the nick of time. And Chris,
Yeah, Brett.
the time that I'm saying that you were in the nick of is sexy time.
Oh, I'm always ready for sexy time.
Are you? Well, get ready some more, big boy, because here it comes. Velvet's Corner. Yeah, that got me there. Got me in the mood. Okay, Chris.
Hi.
The saga continues. At this point, I guess a saga is anything over. We're past the trilogy. That's what I know. So I guess the saga starts. I don't know how to call this. Velvet Thunder, one of our patrons, of course, that this section is named after. He comes in. He says, "The Triangle Squared game from last week's Velvet Corner. The Triangle Squared game gets moderate reviews, with critics enjoying the gameplay but being uncomfortable with the overt sexual references. However,
Cowards.
Triangle Squared 2, The Fall of Kevin Bacon Bits, does considerably better, leading to talk of a movie adaptation. Once again, Brett and Chris are called in as consultants. They're asked who they would like as director, rather, which actors should play them both, who should voice Kevin Bacon Bits, as it will be a CG creation, and how will the plot be changed to better suit a movie-going audience." So, Chris, I have some ideas.
So do I. You go first.
My first idea, which I think is pretty easy to get out of the way, and I feel like you'll be pretty tickled from this one, is I think that a really fun move for Kevin Bacon Bits would to just basically have him be, as I've heard someone say that they didn't, I think it was Kevin Bacon Bits himself saying he didn't know he was going to become the Thanos of this. So with that in mind,
Each monthly game is an Infinity Stone.
to that end, each month that you get more, that's the thing. He gets the Infinity Gauntlet or whatever from the end of the trophy prize. That's why he's trying to go so hard for it. But no, because of that, who better to voice him than Josh Brolin?
Okay. I like that. So is he being played by Josh Brolin, or is he a CGI?
Well, he's a CG creation, which so is Thanos.
Okay. All right.
So, I mean, up to you.
At that point, though, to stick with the motif, I would go with one of the multiple voice actors for Albert Wesker. That's who I would have voice him, because I think he's more of the Wesker.
Okay. That's what you're going for?
Yeah. I think if you finish Resident Evil 4, you'll understand the scene I was kind of describing a little bit more.
Okay. Fair point.
So yeah, I would call him a Wesker. And then who were your actors and your director?
Okay. So director, hands down, right off the top. No, even if the movie's crazy, which it will be because it's an adaptation of these games.
Mm-hmm.
I choose to get somebody who I feel like I can have faith in their adaptation choices, who I also just adore as a director, and I think he has a lot of interesting choices. It's my boy Villeneuve, or whatever the hell you say.
Denis.
It's Denis.
Yeah,
it's Denis. It's my boy.
Okay.
He's a fantastic director, first and foremost. The only director I could think of, just because I would want to make you uncomfortable the whole time, would be the director who I can never say his name correctly. Same
Don't
with
tell
Denis.
me it's who you think. I have a
Who
feeling.
do you think it is?
I don't know his name, but I know exactly what you're going to say.
Let me know. What movie did he direct?
Irreversible.
No, I'm not going that route, even though that one would be even more. I think it's Yorgos Lanthimos. It'd be the guy who directed The Killing of a Sacred Deer and The Lobster and Dogtooth. And
that was not him. I don't think that was Yorgos, though. I think he did House That Jack Built, right? Or was that somebody else? Yeah.
I don't know. I think he may have. He did. Let's see. I'm going to pull up his stuff. He did The Lobster, Dogtooth, Vivarium, Stoker, The Lodge, You Were Never Really Here, Malice, Penelope, The Humans. Actually, this is people also search for. That's not what I was asking for. My bad. Let me go to it real quick. Some of those were his.
No, never mind. You're fine. You were right. Lars von Trier was who did House That Jack Built. So Blake and Velvet, you can stop screaming at the phone. I figured it out.
Thank you. Yeah. I was about to say, I didn't think he had that many movies. I thought he was still, I think Dogtooth was his first one. If not, it was one of the early ones. He's a weird ass director. So that would be fun just to have you be uncomfortable. But no, my actual choice is Denis. I think he's made a pretty wide range of movies and he's shown that he's got an interesting eye. And I would just I think it'd be sick to work with him on something. That's really all it comes down to. Like if I just getting to sit in a room with him, like if you've seen the videos of hearing him talk about adapting Dune, he seems so excited. Like he's so into the idea of trying to be faithful to the adaptation, but also mindful of what works better in film versus book. And he's a very interesting man.
He is.
And I also watched Enemy again recently, and it's such a fucking good movie.
It is a great movie. It's a great ending too.
That's how Hannah was like, "What the fuck?" At the end, it was so good.
It's perfect. I have a couple people I would pick as director. Director's the hard one for me. I'm split between Michael Bay and Mike Flanagan. So two completely different types of movies that we would get. But that's
Michael Bay. I love it, actually. In a weird way, I think Michael Bay could be really great for the type of action set pieces that we're talking about doing.
Exactly.
Though also, I think Villeneuve has done a great job with plenty of his action moments in terms of being tense. I think there's something that would be even more comedic about the stupid situations we described last week being done in a Michael Bay kind of way, where he's taking it with full sincerity, and he's like, and then the camera like shoots in his eye, and it's like, vroom. And we'll do like a camera thing where like the camera spins around, like loops around as it hits him, and it splashes, and then we'll push the camera through his face. Like I could see Michael Bay just going. Which, of course, is a caricature of Michael Bay that like South Park made fun of, but still.
Yeah. All right. I'm thinking of so I'm going in a little bit of different direction than you. So I think for Kevin Bacon Bits, right, I'm going to pick Ralph Ineson to play him.
That guy name from The Witch. Incredibly familiar. Oh, yeah, big dude.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So he'll be played by him. But he's going to talk the exact same way he talks in that movie.
Bold choice.
I must get the platinum trophies. So I think I'm going to go with him. I think we'll have like flashback scenes. I'm sticking with a lot of The Witch because I think I'm going with Michael Flanagan. So I'm going with a specific type of movie. We're going for what Resident Evil 5 wanted to be but couldn't, right? So there will be action set pieces, which is why Michael Bay has switched into the producer role with Flanagan directing.
Oh, he's executive producer. I got you.
Yeah, he's executive producing, and I think he kind of takes over when there's a big action set piece. So we'll have Velvet Thunder will be played by. Are we going like Alive or Dead since this is fantasy? Or are we going
whatever
like,
you want to do, man?
All right, so he's going to be played by Alan Rickman, but Die Hard era Alan Rickman.
Okay.
Yeah. It's Die Hard era Alan Rickman, but like playing Snape. That's Velvet.
Okay.
Kuno Guy can be played by Julian Riching, so I think is a great pick for Kuno Guy.
I don't know if I know who that is.
You'll know when you see his face. Just look him up. You'll understand.
Julian Richings. I don't know if I've ever seen this person in anything.
It's very snaky. And Kuno Guy, just because you're one of the villains of the game, so you got to be a little snaky. So I think I'm going with him. But then for us,
bro, he was in Cube.
Yeah,
Cube is a weird movie too. I've only seen it once, but man, what a flick that was.
Yeah. So here's what we're doing. Okay, these are the actors for us. I've been thinking about this a lot. So I think for you, I would have you played by Cillian Murphy. Okay, so Cillian Murphy will play the part of Brett Beck, the smooth talking guy.
You chose like a devilishly handsome dude for me. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, good for you. Yeah. Yeah. So for me, this was a hard choice. But I think if you've ever listened to me talk about adaptions on this show, you'll know that the pick to play me in the movie is Bill Hader.
You son of a bitch. You son of a bitch. Also, Cillian Murphy and Bill Hader being like interesting. I like the dynamic.
I'm here for it. Yeah, they're like two big army guys.
See, it's funny that you said that because I don't know if you've watched it yet, but my immediate thought, I was going to go just for the because I thought it would be really funny and even play into like the comedy angle of this also somewhat melodramatic real story that we're trying to weave within here. I thought Nicolas Cage for me would be hilarious. So, I thought that would be such a good pick because
if you want to change it up
way
a little
older.
Yeah. Like if we're going to go with like more accurate representations, not that you don't look like Cillian Murphy. I don't want you to get that impression. Right. I have to look
man. I was starting to feel a little worried.
Yeah. No, you do look exactly like Cillian Murphy. Are you the guy from Batman?
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Call me Scarecrow.
I will. I had to look it up to make sure I got the name right. Hold on. Why? You'd think he'd be higher listed in this cast.
Chris, hear me out and don't be. I almost wonder who you're choosing, but for pure comedic effect, I don't think you're going to like who I say.
Wait till you hear who I say for me.
I have to figure out his name because I don't know what it is. But
all right, I'm gonna say my pick because I bet we're gonna go the same way, right? So I'm thinking this is like I think we move it over to like
think that
older.
You know where I'm going.
I might.
Go ahead.
I think we're gonna go older for like the next one, right? So I'm gonna be played by a more visually accurate, and I'm gonna be played by Luis Guzman.
You're kind of going in the direction I am.
Yeah.
But you're not entirely there.
Okay. Who are you picking?
Me being Nick Cage.
Okay.
The equally hilarious choice to me to be opposite Nick Cage is the guy. His name is apparently Ken Davidian. And he's the guy who plays the big dude in Borat, who's with Borat when they're at the naked fight.
Oh, his cousin or whatever?
The real fat dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't hate it. I think Luis Guzman fits me a little bit better.
I agree, actually, but I just thought that one was like comedically him, and of course Nick Cage in his current age. I don't want to be like 1990s Nick Cage when he was kind of bad. I want to be right now, 2022, 2023 Nick Cage, and a lot of this comes from how good the unbearable weight of massive talent is so fucking good at being serious and goofy and telling an actually pretty good story while being really over the top within all of the stuff it's doing. And Pedro Pascal is so good, but I think leaning far into the most ridiculous aspects of what we could be doing, I just thought that was a funny way. When we're talking about shooting cum guns at this guy in the movie adaptation, building towards eventually getting to the fall of Kevin Bacon bits. I like that idea of us being comically crazy versions.
What if we just go like proper big with it, and you're played by Nick Cage, and in a
just to throw this out there, Sacha Baron Cohen as me and you as that dude from Borat would also just be a great movie.
It would also be pretty good. But I'm thinking you as Nick Cage, me as John Travolta.
Oh my God, yes.
But then halfway through the movie, Jamie Lee Curtis and like Lindsay Lohan walk out, and like we get into a fight with them, and then the rest of the movie, it's John Travolta playing Nick Cage playing you. And then, you know, Nick Cage playing you, playing John Travolta or whatever.
Yeah. See, the secret is that in the first act, as we're building up to finding Velvet's Corner, you know, the tower that we talked about within Velvet's Corner, we stop and eat at a Chinese food restaurant.
Yeah.
And Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan are there for a reunion of Freaky Friday. And
it's actually Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah. Yeah. And we see them and we're like, hey, you know, love the movie as, you know, John Travolta and Nick Cage now, not the young versions. And we say like, we're like, hi, you know, y'all are in the, and they're like, yeah, we're here for the joke. And then they give us a fortune cookie as they leave. It's like a, haha, don't forget. And then you crack it open and you read it. And the same thing happens. And that's the inciting incident. That's what happens. That's how we get to the, we switch, and we're having to being in each other's shoes. And that means at the penultimate moment that we go through and do all the stuff where we have to actually take down Kuno Guy as we had to, or Velvet rather, as we had to lean towards learning about Kuno and Kevin Bacon bits is even more funny, because at that point we've just recently gotten back into our own bodies and we have a new respect for each other.
All right, hear me out. Okay, this is going to be my last pitch. But what if we do it like one of those, I can't think of it. Do you know the Death Proof, where it was multiple directors did multiple parts, right? So we do it that way. The first act of the movie is a Judd Apatow like following us after we've been past our prime. We won. We beat Kevin. We beat Kuno Guy, and we think everything's over, right? And it's us just living our daily lives. Like you became.
Now hold on. Is this the first movie, or is this?
This is the first
fall
act.
Of Kevin Bacon bits.
This is the fall of Kevin Bacon bits. It's a 3-director movie, right? Like Death Proof.
Well, so we're saying now we're moving into the sequel. Because what about the first movie?
Oh,
what about the movie adaptation of the first? Are we only doing the movie adaptation of? We're going to start with the final story, the final.
Yeah,
arc
we're starting.
Story?
We're starting with the fall of Kevin Bacon bits, because in our view as consultants, the game works as a first movie. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Maybe we can have
Please
a little
continue.
quick recap in there, directed by like Corey Barlog, right? Like, hey, Corey,
that's where. No, you're right. Like that starts in there, and the middle part of the movie is like secondhand lines, where it's like us going through and showing this young protege all the memories of how all the stuff that led to the ending of the first game happened, and we're like reliving it.
And that's the part directed by Michael Bay, right? That's the action section. So it's the beginning is by Judd Apatow doing like a very heartfelt, like maybe like one of our parents dies or something in the beginning, and it's all depressing. And then the middle act is like, that's Michael Bay. It's us training our protege. That's Cillian Murphy and Bill Hader, right? That's them.
Mm-hmm.
Our children.
Can we do a Batman? Can we do like a Batman Beyond in this, where it turns out that I don't want to spoil Batman Beyond? Actually, I just realized that I would have to in order to. If you know, you know.
But that's the twist in the end, is that we've also taken the stories of Batman Beyond and Superior Spider-Man and our proteges. That's why the ending is the Michael Flanagan horror section, because it's them realizing that Kevin Bacon Bits is in my body. And never mind, I'm going to stop talking. But you know what I'm saying. So that's the ending, and it's this horror thing. And then it's us as John Travolta and Nick Cage being hunted by Cillian Murphy and Bill Hader. Nice. I like it.
Nice. I'm there. You know, speaking of Mike Flanagan, I've never watched Dr. Sleep, but I've heard great things. Did you watch it?
I have not. I have not seen The Shining in a long time, actually.
Bro, you haven't seen The Shining?
I've seen it, just not anytime recently. Because I prefer the books, so I'm one of those pretentious people.
I just thought it was really interesting that you chose specifically Mike Flanagan, because like I can only think of a few things he's worked on.
I like Oculus a lot.
And actually, are you thinking of the right guy?
I am thinking of the right guy.
Yeah, you are. Oculus. Yeah. Oh, he did Hush.
Yeah,
I forgot about that. And Hush is really good.
Hush fucks. That movie came off Netflix, and I don't think you can watch it anymore.
I know. I don't know why.
So
I've watched it twice. It's so good. Yeah, very good. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's my pitch. It stars Cillian Murphy, Alan Rickman, Ralph Fiennes, Cillian Murphy, Bill Hader.
But also John Travolta, Nick Cage.
Nick Cage, yeah. Absolutely. I like it. I'm here for it.
I'm here for it as well. All right. Well, I think that right there concludes the one and only, the sexy Velvet Corner. All right, Chris. I've already given them the community's take, which of course was their take on B. Rogers' question about being teleported into a game of choice. And by the way, there was a time limit. I'm an idiot. It's a month.
Oh, a month? GTA.
As you learned from before we started, I'm apparently having trouble reading everything today. It's in the first sentence, and I'm over here like, no timeline was given. So yeah, we're all good. They have a month. That'll be the community's take. Do you have anything else you'd like to wrap the show up with, or otherwise are you good to go?
No, I'm good to go. Next, we'll have an update on the trophy competition soon. I think I'm still losing, but I'm pulling forward. Yeah, that's about it.
Little by little, day by day.
Brett's got to find another game to put on his list for the trophy Metacritic competition. And you got 2 more games he's got to put on there.
I know, but I have so long in the year that you never know what could pop up out of nowhere, you know?
It's true.
You know what? I don't want to say too. No, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait until one more preview before I say what I've been thinking. I had 2 games I was thinking about. Alan Wake 2 is one of them. The other is a relatively new reveal.
Oh, I want to know.
I don't want to say too much. You might steal it from it.
I only got one more pick left, Brett. You're kind of safe. I can't burn them too early. Burn them is a strong call for a 94, but still.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't think that was a burning of anything. I'm absolutely going to butcher the name of the game here, so give me a second.
Harvestella on PS5.
No, even though that game does look like it would be very good. So, but have they announced it's coming to PS5?
They have not.
Yeah, I didn't think so. The game I am talking about is, I don't love the name, but it still looks really good, at least right now. But it's too early, too soon. I want to see more of it before I dedicate to it. But that Immortals of Avium, that's coming from EA,
yeah, that
looks like it has the potential to be fantastic. It looks like it has the potential to be at least mid 80s. But I've said that about enough games that did not hit there that I'm not wanting to jump into that yet. I need to see it a little bit more, but it's coming soon. Hey, what I feel bad about is that I loved Forspoken, even with some of the problems.
Excuse me.
but that's not what the competition was. So I was right in choosing it for me. I was wrong for choosing it for critical reception.
Yeah, you got to think like the critics. That's why I got scared off Hogwarts, which
it is credit, like the 80 to 85 that it's in my heart. It's the 80 to 85 that I thought it would be. But critically, I cannot blame anyone for not calling it that.
It's definitely a game. It has graphics. It
is definitely a game. Yeah. So we will definitely see. But I'm going to hold off a little bit longer because while I think it's a really strong initial showing, I would like to see a little bit more before I go jumping in and putting it on my list. You know what I mean? Okay.
Yes, Mr. I understand what you're saying.
All right, guys. If this was your first episode for some reason, we hope you enjoyed. Everyone else who's been joining us week in, week out, or just hopping in when they have time, we hope you enjoyed the show. We'll see you next week. We'll be back with episode 304. Who knows what kind of crazy news may happen in the in-between from there. But one of these days, it's going to have to move from this relatively sluggish early year news point. Like, we're getting a lot of games that are reviewing pretty well and big high-profile releases, but nothing big in the news sphere just yet. But with that said, we have people who so graciously go to patreon.com/Nartech and give as little as $1 per month to keep this show going and running without us having to dig into our own pockets. It's a huge help, and it's a big reason that we still do this show 303 episodes in. So we'd like to do what we always do and offer a huge shout out to them, and also extend an invitation to anyone that feels like they're enjoying what we're putting out here and enjoys what we're doing. Please consider it. I know $1 is not that much, but it can also make or break for some people. So if you have it in you and you enjoy what we're doing, we would love the extra support. And if not, we're just appreciative that the fact that you just listen to us as often as you do. So with much love to everyone, but especially our patrons, Spencer, Brandon Edwards, Alex, Barry Rogers, Stingray X, It's a Sin to Win, a.k.a. Sean, Aztec King, Lechion69, The Lord Corgi, Salvador Garcia, Hammond Egger, Bailey Robertson, Mark Schutz, Cypher Primus, Kyle Grimm, Rude Days 93, Kevin Bacon Bits, Christopher, Danny Villalobos, Jehudi MD, No Fate, Josh Ayers, Derek Porter, Donovan Williams, Matthew Green, and Sean Santaroo. Thanks to each and every one of you. See you next week.